Well, I've noticed when I interview people with Azalea that, and the other ones, that some people are just open. And I guess you notice this throughout life, but some people, when I'm interviewing them, it's really like pulling teeth trying to get anything out of them. That you have to ask that one question, and there's just no follow-up after that. They just kind of say, and yes. And you're like, so elaborate. No.
Yeah,
That's
you
all
gotta
you
ask
get.
those open-ended questions.
And even when you do.
Yeah, sometimes that doesn't work. But
yeah. But those are, I would say that's like 1 in 10 or 2 in 10. Some people are oversharers.
I was about to say, how often do you get the opposite?
Oh, I've had a couple. Yeah. There was one in particular that I remember, and this person was just really excited about being interviewed. I think it might have been their first interview. And I don't know if they were just overthinking and just making sure that everything was included, but they talked to me for about 2 hours, starting at basically the womb. And I mean, basically, it was like the day I was born, and then went into just up until what they ate for dinner that night. And then, so that was a lot. And I was just like, okay, that's a lot. But then I got a 5-page email afterward. Yeah. I feel like I didn't say enough. And so then they sent me everything. And so that was, yeah. So I do get the opposite sometimes, for sure.
I feel like we try to book guests that we know that are going to talk and that are kind of outgoing and whatever. That
we certainly try.
I don't think it's on purpose, but the people that we have booked kind of talk a little bit. Like Gordon, the last episode we did, what was that, 2 nights ago?
Yeah,
Sunday night. Yeah.
Wow, you guys are killing it.
We have a 4-day row next week.
Yeah, once I come back from Colorado, we got the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th all booked 4 days in a row. It's going to be crazy.
I'll probably look like a zombie afterwards.
Yeah.
Because I'm still 3 episodes behind editing right now.
No, we just finished Clayton. We just got to add the intro to it. And then we got Paul and Gordon, right?
And then, not Jana. So.
Is it Jana or Jana?
It's Jana.
Jana.
It's a very 80s name.
Why do you say that?
I just have you met someone
Never
of youth named Jana?
I mean,
there's a real estate agent in town, and it says Jana Bantz, Bantz. Every time I see her, that's the only other Jana I ever see. I have met another 55-year-old Jana. So.
And is that what you go by, or do you go by Jana, JJ?
No.
Is there any nicknames or anything?
JJ. I don't have any nicknames. My husband has about 20 for me.
Right.
But just the interpersonal average Joe. There's no. I wish I had a nickname, but you can't bestow one upon yourself. You can't be like, hey everybody, I'm going by, Rocket Girl now. I mean,
Rocket Girl.
I did back in the 80s. I was in a gang, and my name was Busy D.
Hold on.
Was my name.
Back it up a little bit.
We've never talked about this.
Never in our entire friendship have I ever heard that you were in a gang.
All right, well, I was in a gang, so...
Can you elaborate?
This thing is a little off here for some reason.
Yeah, I know we're sitting with Jana Riley right now, but Brian, you're going to steal this moment.
Oh, I need to hear about this.
It was a gang. We had a gang back in the 80s when I was in middle school. It was called the Casual Crew. That was the name of our gang.
Okay, when you said middle school, I started to question the validity of this game.
No, we were tough.
I agree.
We were tough guys. I mean, this was late middle school, kind of early high school.
Late middle school.
Yeah,
so you were the big boys.
Yeah, 7th, 8th grade. We were tough. Tough kids back then. It was 80s. 80s was rough, man. It was the Cold War. Russia was trying to invade. We had nuclear war going on, the threat.
Everything I know about the 80s, I know from Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire. I mean, that covers a lot more than just the 80s. But
and we actually started a lot of fires, actually, as a gang.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we had the Casual Crew. We had Down by Law.
It didn't sound like you were very casual.
The New Breed. We had the Bugle Boys.
Oh my God, there was a lot of gangs.
There was a lot of gang activity.
Where did you grow
This
up?
was in North Charleston. I went to Stall High
Pepper
School.
Hill.
We had a big rivalry between North Charleston High School, Stall High School, Goose Creek, Hanahan, all these guys.
What did you get up to in this gang? I mean, can you say? Are you still potentially wanted for some of these things?
Oh, no. It's all good now.
Was it like stealing people's pencils? Or
no, we would have you ever seen The Outsiders with...
yeah, that's what I'm imagining.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. We'd have rival like gang fights with these other schools and different neighborhoods and stuff.
Why?
We'd meet out in the field and we'd have 20 on 20 just fights. Just people.
Do you have any scars from these days?
I do. I have a scar from an ice pick that I got stabbed with an ice pick in my back.
Dude, you never mentioned this.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
It was excellent. And then we had a breakdance crew called the Port City Breakers. We were breakdancers as well. We did everything in the 80s. The 80s was great. Why are we talking about me? This is supposed to be about Jana Riley.
This is the most fascinating thing
I'm going to have to agree right now. Did you wear like a certain color, bandana?
Yeah, how were you
guys
identified?
wear like really cool...
We had these... you remember airbrushed
tops?
like T-shirts and stuff? Like the
yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. The ones they do in the mall?
Yeah, we had airbrushed tank tops, and they were red, and they had the casual crew. We had like trucker-style hats, and we wore them like sideways and like to the back.
Oh my God, is this Big Trouble in Little China?
And we had we would have this big C on both sides, like CC for casual crew, and then your tag name would be in the middle. So my name was C. Brian C. is what it said on my hat. It said C. Brian C.
So we're obviously doing retro craft conversation shirts.
And it's funny because Sean Bennett, I remember this to this day. He was big friends with my brother at the time, so he would always just call me C. Brian C. That was my name whenever Sean would see me.
To clarify, Sean Bennett, what is
the senator.
He was not in the casual crew.
No, he was not in the casual crew, but they did have their own little group called the Phi Kappa Dappas at Stahl High School. Yeah, they had this little fraternity type name that they made up in high school called the Phi Kappa Dappas. And I can't remember what Sean's name was, but my brother's name is Bruce, and his Phi Kappa Dappa name was Bruno.
Name.
His name was Bruno.
Oh my gosh! Which I'm sure you felt great when the movie Bruno came out.
Probably not. That was a long time after that.
Bruno.
This was like 84 or something that they had this thing going on.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Please tell me you have photos.
I do not. I mean, probably somewhere. I've probably got some kind of photo somewhere. But
I humbly request that you pull some out.
And my father had newspaper articles of news blotters that we had gotten in trouble or a gunfight broke out at so and so high school with DBL and casual crew.
He kept it like a scrapbook.
Yeah, he had a little scrapbook.
He was proud of this.
I don't know if he was proud of it. I think he was just keeping track and keeping whatever. But
I can honestly say I've never met a local person that was so deeply involved in a gang.
Yeah, it was.
I'm gonna have to agree with that wholeheartedly.
It was a good time. How do you feel? You warm? Cool?
I'm always cold.
Okay?
I feel good.
Temperature's good?
Always cold.
Okay. Just making sure.
Caleb needs a blanket.
Well, I do have one, but partition.
Oh my God, that's adorable.
Thank you.
How did we get talking about
I got that when I was like 15. Yeah. My grandma made it for me.
Oh, grandmas are the best.
Talking about the gang.
Yeah, why were we talking about a gang?
I don't know how that came up.
I'm glad. However we got there, I'm glad we did.
Yeah, no kidding. I like that too.
Those are good times.
Rough
I always wrote a book about
days.
it. I wrote one book back in 2007. I think I produced that book, and my next book was going to be about the casual crew. Actually, I was going to write about it, and I never got around to it. I wrote the first paragraph at one point, and I never.
So we're going to release the paragraph. Oh my God, we should have him reading it, and we'll record it.
I mean, it was like 5 lines or something, just the beginning of
even better, just in case it sucks.
Can you
interpret that I was going to write.
Do some interpretive movement.
I like that. Like do
dramatic reading.
No.
Can you reenact how you got stabbed with an ice pick?
Please.
I don't remember what street it was on, but we were having a big gang fight.
As you do in middle school.
Outsider style in Pepper Hill neighborhood on, I think it was Stony Brook Avenue. We just had a big fight, like 10 on 10 or 15 on 15, just people just.
There's no way I could have done that as a kid. Mm-hmm. Absolutely zero. I was too nervous and shy to even go into a sandbox that was full of toys with other kids in it to go grab toys. I was like, no, I don't want those toys. There's other kids looking at me.
Yeah, that sounds like my son. He's 2. And when we go to a park, I tell him we're going to go. He says, okay, Mama, but no people there. No people there. no kids there. And I have to talk to him about how other people are not, the worst thing in the world to encounter. It's okay.
It's weird, but I understand that completely. And when I worked at Coastal, every time that doorbell would ring when someone would walk in, like a little part of me would be like, oh no.
Oh God, no people. My middle school years were not anything like yours. I was a super nerd. I had a bowl cut. It was bad.
Where are you from? Are you from here originally?
I am. I'm from Somerville. I was born in Augusta, Georgia. North Augusta, South Carolina. It's right on the border. So get it mixed up. But
don't mind me.
Okay.
But you're going to have to get a lot closer.
Okay.
This was my dream the other night. I told him I had a dream.
I know.
I told him I had a dream about the podcast, and you just weren't not loud enough. It was horrible podcast because we couldn't hear you at all.
Why would you say the word horrible?
Horrible.
Right now while we're recording.
That was a dream. That's not real.
It's not real. Listen to how loud I am. I'm in the red.
But now we're cognizant of it. So.
Yes, I will be more cognizant.
That's okay. I can just turn you up.
Ooh.
See? You're right in the sweet spot. Go ahead.
I'm right in the sweet spot.
The sweet spot.
Well, now we know how to open the video.
All right. So sorry for interrupting.
Oh, it's okay. Yes, I was born in Augusta. Lived there for a couple of years, and then my parents moved down here. I lived in North Charleston. Probably witnessed some gang fights over there.
Where in North Charleston?
Archdale, off of Dorchester.
Okay.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine lived over there.
Yeah, it was cool. And then we moved up to Charlotte for my middle school years, and then I moved back. And then upon graduating high school and college, I moved up to Vermont for a couple of years, and then I moved back. And so I can't get away, but it's not a bad thing at this point.
How beautiful is Vermont?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Same thing.
I am just so in love with Vermont. It's just a really special place. I mean, there's a reason everybody loves it.
Right. Isn't that the one that's for... No, that's Virginia. That's for lovers.
Vermont and Virginia are really different places.
Oh. But Virginia is the one that's for lovers,
yeah,
right?
You're right.
Okay, so...
Yeah. Vermont is the one that it seems like this hidden secret of the U.S. I mean, there's not as many people as you would expect to be in a place like that. And maybe it's the winters, but as long as you kind of embrace the winter and say, hey, winter, I'm going to enjoy you, I think you can have a great time, because then you have summers that are like 78 degrees every single day. And
right.
It's a cool place.
Yeah, same thing as I was in Anchorage, Alaska for 6.5 years. And same thing, as long as you knew how to get out and enjoy the winters, they were 9 months long or maybe 10 months some years. As long as you got out and enjoyed it, you didn't get so depressed and just kind of sit inside and just do nothing all winter. If you got out and did cross-country skiing, or you got out and snowshoed, or just hiked or skied, downhill skiing, whatever, you had a good time. But if you sat inside, you were depressed and it just sucked ass and it was not good at all. Yeah, and then we had 2 months of summer. Same thing, about 70, maybe close to 80 degrees. But
that sounds awesome. My roommate had it's the SAD disorder, seasonal affective disorder. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but
no, you're right. That's it.
So I guess you don't say SAD disorder, because that's like saying ATM machine.
Yeah.
He had SAD. That sounds even weirder.
Already in there.
But he had one of those light boxes that he had to sit in front of a couple hours a day, or just have it on while he was working or something, because otherwise it gave the artificial sunlight. He couldn't handle the fact that there was
happy lights, I think, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it definitely helped, but getting outside also helped. So did that sometimes too.
We just fill our studio with those. Happy lights everywhere.
Fluorescent lights, but yeah, Alaska was totally different than Vermont, because during the wintertime you had, in Anchorage, you had about 20 hours of darkness. I mean, you had 4 hours of light, which wasn't even full sunlight. It was like when the sun's setting on the horizon, you just have that like dusk feeling. Mm-hmm. That's all it was. 4 hours of like dusk. There was no bright sunlight.
That sounds pretty cool, though.
It was cool. And then it was just the opposite. In the summertime, you had 20 hours of sunlight and maybe 4 hours of dusk. So it was just reversed.
Now, do you see the Northern Lights in Anchorage? Wow,
yeah.
That's so cool.
Not as greatly, I guess, as other parts of Alaska where it was darker. I mean, the city, you know, lights kind of distort that northern light
pollution
essence. But I remember one time I was coming back from Iraq. I was stationed in Iraq, and I was coming back flying into Anchorage at nighttime in September of 2006. And the pilot came on the intercom and said, "Hey, if you look out your left window, you can see the northern lights." And it was just
that's cool.
No distortion, no city lights, nothing to distract from it. It was just this aura of lights just out the airplane as we were coming back in. It was fantastic.
Did everyone run to one side and the whole plane just
I was going to say, I wonder how that is for the physics of the plane.
Into the ocean. Yeah.
All right, well, before we get too far.
We're getting too far.
First, we need to introduce our guests.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And I've already forgot. Jana.
No.
Jana.
I guess I don't know that I answered your question earlier. Maybe I did. So just say Anna, but put a J in front of it. Or say the name Jan and put an A at the end of it.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So Jana. Yeah.
Yeah.
Author, writer for 3 different magazines, right?
Yeah.
The Azalea, the Palmetto, and the Augustan.
The New Augustan. Yep. I also.
Is it called the New Augustan?
Yeah, it's called the New Augustan Magazine.
What happened to the old Augustan?
Wasn't good enough.
Yeah. It was a creative choice. I think there was something called I forget kind of why we got to that, but part of it is understanding that Augusta is actually just becoming this really booming place. I mean, it's people don't realize how cool Augusta is. I didn't, and my grandparents lived there. I grew up going there all the time, but it's a cool place. And so I think harnessing that in the name and saying, it's the New Augusta, and here's the New Augustan Magazine.
That's awesome.
I think that was a rhetorical question. I'm just giving you everything.
It was.
No, I like it.
I've only been there a couple times, but it's been a long, long time. I mean, like mid-90s probably since I've been there. So I need to get back and see what they've done with the place. But
one cool thing, if I may, is that the whole cyber security training center of all of the military units are all branches of the military is going to be located in Augusta. They're putting, I want to say, billions of dollars into it. It's this huge project. And so, I mean, housing is being purchased. When we started a couple of years ago, you could go downtown and there were just these amazing, they've got such cool architecture there because for years, people from all different countries have been coming for the masters. And so then they stay and they build houses that reminded them of their home in Spain. And so you've got like all these different kinds of architecture there.
Right.
And for just 3 years ago, you could go in there and buy something ridiculous for amazing for $100,000 or something right downtown. And now you see everything's being bought up and it's definitely destined to be at least the next Greenville or something, but probably something even cooler. They've got a great art scene too. Good music.
I can see that now. You mentioned the Masters. That makes sense. I mean, it's probably grown just leaps and bounds because of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of money there.
Probably doubled.
That video you posted of that I filmed with Slayton, the ants?
Yeah, that was in Augusta. Yeah.
It was in Augusta. It was the only time I've ever been there. It was dark when I got there, but the architecture is the one thing that I noticed was amazing. Like all the buildings were super cool.
Yeah, they've got cool old signage too everywhere. Like they've, the old laundromat signs and just really interesting stuff they've kind of preserved throughout the years. And they've got a lot of history as well. So we're contracted to do a magazine there, and it's been a really cool experience.
So you get to travel up there a lot?
We do it, I think, 2 times a year, and they put us up in a hotel and they give us kind of a schedule of here are the people you're interviewing, and we can say suggestions of what we think, but we kind of 9:00 we visit this guy who just learned how to who just started carving for the first time and he's like amazing at it, or 10:00 maybe 11 we'll go to the art museum and talk to the curator there. So it's just a day of learning about people's passions, and then we do it the next day too. So yeah, it's cool. It's a really creative and inspiring weekend every single time. The idea something that would be great is if we could take that same model and do it anywhere else they want us to come, because that's my goal in life, is to be paid to travel and write about it. Yeah. So this is one step in that direction for sure.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So is that called a travel writer or just travel blogger? I mean, what would the title of that be?
I think that would be a travel writer, because I would want to be in magazines.
Okay.
I know that one of the best ways to get started is to have a travel blog. I haven't done that because everybody has a blog. And I almost wonder if where I'm at now with just hundreds and hundreds of articles under my belt at this point, if blogging is kind of unnecessary to get, make my resume seem valid. And that might be arrogant of me, but I just kind of have this portfolio already. So I kind of feel like I don't need a blog to establish that I write. Right. I can just say, here's this pile.
Yeah,
So
I think
we'll
it's
see.
More impressive that you actually have
published.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a blog, anyone can write. And
some people have great blogs. Like, don't get me wrong.
I'm not trying to crap on anyone's blog, but you don't have to get hired for that position. You don't have to prove yourself worthy to write, I guess.
Yeah. So. And it's I don't know. I kind of say, who wants to read my musings on life I don't know. It's a big enough deal for me to post stuff on Instagram and be like, look at my life. It's interesting. Is it? I don't know.
I mean, we're sitting here talking to you, so
That's true. Here I am.
Well, let's open some drinks, and then we'll get back to where you started as far as writing, blogging, whatever the case may be. But let's open something to drink.
All right.
What do you think?
I'm always ready to drink.
So today we're going to do something different, right? We're going to do some kombucha instead of craft. We got some craft beer as well, but we're going to do some kombucha from Coastal Coffee Roasters. Yeah. Oh, and where'd you go?
Where'd I go? I'm in the studio. Soaking all of the cameras. But I wanted to taste it because I don't make it anymore at Coastal.
Right. Well, I thought we'd just all taste it in this one glass. I mean, she'll get a full glass, and then we can just have a little sip of it or whatever.
Well, you said you weren't going to, so let's do it.
I'll taste it, whatever.
Oh, I gotta film it. That's right.
Do you want to explain this since you used to make this stuff?
I'm curious. I don't even know how it's made.
Coastal Coffee
really?
Mm-hmm.
I know something about a mother.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to describe the way I made it when I was there. You're going to make we did a concentrated tea. So we added a crap ton of tea, had it sit in water for almost an hour. So it got really bitter.
It was green tea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it got really intense. And then you filter out the tea leaves, and you take the tea, you mix it with sugar, and then you add the SCOBY, which is a symbiotic colony of biotic yeast. Don't quote me on that, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close.
The words seem right.
And it's just like your average yeast. It's going to ferment, and it's going to eat the sugars that are in the tea, and it's going to give it a vinegary but a effervescent type of taste. And you can add fruits to it for a second fermentation if you want to do that. But I know the one thing that is different with this is you want to have it open. So we would put a coffee filter on top so that nothing falls in and contaminates it because it can get moldy fast. But I mean, you just feed it once a week or so with a little bit more sugar and keep the yeast going as long as you want it to continue to ferment. It gets more and more powerful. But it helps with the probiotics and your stomach and your gut. It gives you a lot of good nutrients. Basically the same thing as yogurt.
Okay.
Or anything like that.
And then because it does ferment, it produces just a tiny bit of alcohol, but it's very trace amount.
0.0 something.
Yeah.
It's
not like you even have to have an ID for it or anything. But
there's literally no harm. A kid could drink it and wouldn't even get warm.
Yeah.
I don't know that either, so don't.
And then, like you said, a probiotic effect, so it's good for the gut bacteria, the gut flora, to try and get that going. So I know you had mentioned a juice cleanse or something, right?
Yes.
That you were going to be starting here today or shortly. So
yes,
this would be good for that, to rebuild the gut flora and try and get things going well.
Have you had kombucha before?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because it's a huge hit or miss if people like it or not. So at least you know what you're walking into.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 32 ounces of this stuff. So how much would you like?
Like
a half a glass?
Half, yeah.
Okay.
Half would be good. What's the flavor of this?
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I used to do a bunch of...
It's just green tea, right?
Yeah, I think it's just green tea. Cause we used to add fruits and stuff, and then we ended up having a ridiculous stock of random flavors. Yeah. Go ahead. And I think Brad just wanted to cut it back to the basics for a while. Right.
So they craft this themselves. So it fits with the craft conversation.
Thanks. Yeah, the mother has been there. Oh, I'll explain that. So you'll have a yeast, and it's almost like a patty, and it feels like a stingray. You know, where you think it's going to be slimy, but it's kind of like rough textured. Same situation, and it floats on the top. And as it ferments and eats the sugar, it just continues to grow, and it can get pretty thick. And what it does is it creates like a child, and the mother's on top or the child's on bottom, so you can separate them. Then you have two.
Okay.
So every time you make a new batch, you get an extra SCOBY. And it's kind of the same thing. So, like, you can have a mother that will continue to make more and more SCOBYs. And we sell them, or they sell them at Coastal. So you can make one at home if you want. All you need is tea and sugar.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. I mean...
It doesn't look
It's
awesome.
nasty looking when you're making this thing. But, I mean, this is kind of what...
It.
Yeah, this is kind of what a SCOBY looks like. I mean, it's just a weird, crazy looking thing. I don't know.
That was like playing with those were my children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wording of it is a little strange.
Yeah. So.
We had one that I just kept going like crazy. It was probably 1.5 inches thick, and I think I called it Kim Kardashian for how fat it was.
Well, we don't. It's thick, right? With like a
Thick.
bunch of C's.
That's right. Yeah.
PHAT.
Thick. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fat.
It was fun.
THICCCCC.
At least 5.
Thick.
All right, let's taste it.
All right.
Let's taste it.
Let's see how well Dan's been doing.
What do we want to toast anything?
No.
Too late.
Ooh, very vinegary.
Jana ruined it.
I'm so sorry.
You ready? You going in?
Ooh.
What do you think?
I like it. It reminds me of apple cider vinegar.
It does. I was going to say the same thing.
It's got a lot of sugar still.
I mean, it's definitely carbonated versus apple cider vinegar. A little bit. Tiny bit.
It's like a sweet carbonated
sweeter.
apple cider vinegar drink.
Yeah.
But I like it. It's weird enough.
It is good.
It is. And it's good for you. It's good for you.
I heard a rumor that up to 16 ounces. After that, your body is going to process it like anything else. So I guess there's a limit to the benefits.
Oh, okay.
And
I
if
mean,
that's
that's probably
not true, we'll all just yell at Richard Mallet.
That man knows what he's talking about. So.
That's what I thought too. So I trust him. But that's good. Definitely. I wish they would do a black tea
Is that on par with what you used to brew?
I don't think mine was that sweet.
What do you call it? Brewing? It's not called brewing, right? Steeping?
Fermenting? Creating?
All right.
I could drink this.
What would you call Dr. Frankenstein? I guess you would call him a doctor. No, what was he? I guess he'd be creating life.
Yeah, he'd be called a doctor. He's Dr. Frank.
Whatever, fuck it. Screw you guys.
So, how did you get started writing? I mean, where did your writing career begin?
I went to school at Gardner Webb University, a very small private Christian school upstate. And I went to school for marketing. Just really tried to make things as broad as possible. It was actually communications with an emphasis on marketing. And I wrote a lot for my classes. But then, I don't know, I guess I haven't been asked that question before. Okay, so in between my junior and senior year in college, I had always wanted to live in Vermont. And it was just something, I had gone to a wedding there once. And so I posted on the Vermont Craigslist, I'm looking for a job. Also, I need a place to stay. Also, I've never been to Vermont outside of a wedding. And that is prime, young 20s ignorance. But a woman saw it and she said, come work at my wedding magazine and stay in my house and I'll pay you. You can be an intern and I'll also pay you and you can have a place to live. And of course my father was like, I am going with you to meet this psychopath. Yeah. And, and we did. So my dad and we flew up there and we might have driven up there now that I think of it. But anyway, we met her and she seemed like a decent person. Her mom worked with her. She ran 4 different magazines out of Vermont. And so I started working with her. And in that job, I did a lot of writing. And then after I went back for senior year, and then afterward, I moved back up to Vermont and continued working for her. And then that all like went down in a pile of flames. But pile of flames?
I think it works.
Ball of flames? I don't know.
If you have more than one flame, that...
It could just be a pile of them.
Right?
I don't think that's how it works, but we'll go with it. But then I came down and I met the owners of Azalea Magazine, and it needed some editing for sure. It's obviously a beautiful magazine, really well done, but they just needed an editor at the time. And so kind of pitched myself, and I edited one, and they gave me a chance, and then they just kept giving me more chances, and now I write about 5 articles per issue. And then we moved on to South Carolina Magazine with Palmetto, and then to Augustan Magazine, and so for each one I do about 5 articles, which is about a third of the articles, I would say, in each magazine, so it's a pretty big chunk. But
okay.
Yeah.
And that comes out quarterly? Or monthly?
Azalea, I want to say Azalea comes out quarterly, and Palmetto comes out biannually.
Right. So Azalea is like a spring, fall, winter, whatever.
That one definitely is. And then Palmetto, that one comes out twice a year, and then Augusta comes out twice a year. So
okay.
I don't think I've picked up a Palmetto.
Yeah, they're cool. I actually wrote the editor's letter in the last issue of Palmetto, and it felt like such a big deal. My editor...
That's like the first page you turn to?
Yeah, that kind of teases the things within the magazine. And, of course, I called out my articles hardcore. I mean, I think anybody would. But, yeah, that was a good time.
Right on. Azalea is one of my all-time favorite magazines ever. Just the design to the content, the picture. Oh, gosh.
Right, yeah, we talked about that one day.
Texture.
Talked about that when Dan was on.
Oh, I love it so much.
I think what happened with Azalea is that a lot of times writers start magazines, and writers aren't necessarily good graphically or visually, and they can be, but not all the time. So Will and Dottie Rizzo, they're a married couple. They actually started Azalea. Will is a graphic designer. He's a branding expert. He's really good at all that. And Dottie is an amazing photographer. So they're neither of them claim to be writers. And so they make the magazine visually gorgeous and then hire writers. And I think that model is what makes it work, because, a lot of times when you have a writer, like if I were to, it just wouldn't, it wouldn't be on that caliber.
Well, everyone's playing their strengths.
Yeah.
So comes out beautifully.
Yeah, it's a good setup. I'm proud to be a part of it for sure.
And you started with them when? Do you remember?
2012, I think.
So
yeah, Dan and I were married 2011, and so it's been 6 years. Yeah. What year is it? I don't even know anymore.
2018. You're always doing math on the show.
Man, math is
every episode.
Part of everyday life, but usually just simple addition and subtraction.
It is my worst subject.
Oh, for sure. I cannot stand math. I mean, I can do it. I do fairly well at it, but I don't like it. I hate it, especially algebra, more so than math, I guess. But
do you run into algebraic equations often in your daily life?
All the time. Every hour of every day.
I wouldn't know how to even recognize one at this point.
I don't either.
I'm sure we do them when we're trying to figure things out, but we don't realize it's algebra.
Right. Oh my gosh, it's not fun at all.
I never thought about that.
What
math have I been doing? I don't know what I'm worse at, math or geography. Neither of those are my strong suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm artistic all the way. That's where my brain sits.
Yeah, I mean, that's clear. I used to be really bad at geography. I remember back in high school, I had a map. And just for fun one day, I tried to write, I wish I could find it now, because I tried to write where each state was and like what I thought each state was. And that was a cluster. That was bad. That was a bad news.
Me right now.
It was like, I know California is here, and I know like New York is in this vicinity, and South Carolina and Florida are here, and Texas is, everybody's got Texas. But then everything else was horrible. And now at this point, I've visited 45 states, and driving through them, you get a sense of where they are.
Shit, 45.
Yeah, we talked about that the other night. Yeah, she's done quite a bit. She's done more than me, I think, actually. But I have no idea. I'm up there pretty far. In the 30s, maybe I've gotten into the 40s.
I told you you should check them off. It's fun to know the number.
Well, I've done that thing on Facebook where you list how many states you've been to, but I can't remember what it was.
It was well worth your time.
It was. I'd have to go back and look at it, but
I think
it's been quite a few. I'm getting ready to knock Colorado off in 2 days.
Oh, so you haven't been to Colorado?
No, never been there.
Oh, that's so cool. What are you going to do while you're there?
I'll be there tomorrow evening.
What are you doing while you're there?
You already know this.
Well, she just asked you.
I mean, are you going?
What I'm doing, I'm meeting my oldest son there. I was supposed to meet both my sons there. We were going to do a Spartan race this Saturday.
Right.
In Fort Carson, Colorado.
See, I knew this too.
Did you say where?
Well, my youngest son backed out. He had some other obligations. He said he just couldn't make it. So it's just going to be me and my older son now.
It's not like a team thing. You don't need a certain amount of members.
Well, we had started a team called Miyagi-Do, which is based off of the Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi. So we started a team, and it was myself, Brian, Alec, and then he was going to invite some more, or they were going to invite some more of their friends. We were going to all sign up. Nobody wanted to sign up because it was just too far to go and money, blah, blah, blah. So just the three of us signed up, and then, like I said, my youngest son backed out, so now it's just me and my oldest son. We're going to meet up early Thursday. I'll get there tomorrow evening, and then we're going to meet up early Thursday morning, and we're going to go brewery hopping and do some brewery tours. Cool. And we're going to do some remote podcasting with him as my co-host, and we're going to hit some breweries and try and talk to some brewers and talk about beer or whatever. I don't know.
When's the race? Is it on Friday?
No, the race is on Saturday. So
okay.
We'll do this on Thursday. Yeah, Friday we'll kind of take a little break and relax, and then Saturday we'll run the race. And whatever, we're gonna have a good time. It's gonna be a good time.
I don't see how it could go wrong.
This will be probably our 12th or 13th Spartan race.
Holy shit!
We try and do a different location every year, so we're trying to hit different states and knock states off of our list, and so we don't do the same course every time. So we've done Washington, we've done Nevada, we've done Arizona, we've done California, we've done Utah, we've done South Carolina, Georgia. Now we're doing Colorado, so we're just trying to knock off a bunch of different states.
Those are some good states.
Yeah. We're having a good time with it.
Yeah, I've got good memories in all those places.
Yeah. It's a good time. We're going to have a good time.
It's tart.
It is a little tart. It's a little sweet.
You know, it is. It reminds me a little bit of some sour beer.
True.
Which is ironic because that's what we have.
Yeah, that's what we're going to drink here in a second.
Yeah. But. So, Spartan Race, you're not just running. There are obstacles?
Yeah, this one is called a Spartan Super. There's three different distances, or three main distances for the general public. There's a Spartan Sprint, which is 3+ miles and like 20 obstacles or so. There's a Spartan Super, which is 8+ miles. Excuse me. So it might be anywhere between like 8 and 10 miles. You don't know till you get there and see the course. And it's 25+ obstacles. And then the Spartan Beast is 12+ miles and 30+ obstacles. And speaking of Vermont, there's one I'm looking at doing in Vermont in September that is called a Spartan Ultra Beast, which is 30+ miles and 60+ obstacles. So it's over marathon distance and a shit ton of obstacles. And it's at Killington ski resort up there in Vermont.
Cool.
It's on the ski resort, actually.
What time of year is it?
September.
Oh, my God. You have to go.
Yeah.
That's like... Everything is alive in color.
I know, but it's literally a beast. I mean, it's called the Ultra Beast.
You can do it. It's fine.
I don't know. So I'm thinking about it, but I can't get anybody to go with me, so I'm not sure if I want to go by myself or not and do it.
I'll go with you. I'm just not going to do it.
I mean, I'll definitely hitch a ride.
Yeah.
we'll
hang out while you're out there dying.
All right. Well, it's a thought, maybe. I was thinking, because my birthday's in September, so I was thinking about doing it kind of as a birthday thing. But
when's your birthday?
September 4th.
The 12th.
The 12th?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's about when the race is, actually, mid-September sometime.
There you go.
Yeah. So I don't know.
That's cool. Yeah.
But I've done all the other distances, so that would be the next step.
It sounds like you know what you need to do here.
Yeah.
Just sign up for it and train it.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of travel, money. I don't know.
Yeah, but the experience.
I know.
What else are you spending money on besides experiences?
Nothing. Kombucha. Beer.
Which it's turning into an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Well, speaking of an experience, we got Dan's wife here. We had mentioned in one episode that if you were ever indisposed or you weren't able to do it, I was going to have Dan on as a guest host.
Yeah.
And then I started piecing it together. I said, man, you know what? The other day we had Clayton Lewis on, and Clayton Lewis was talking about he just got a job with Cumulus Radio. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, man, I got a guy that's got the inside scoop at Cumulus Radio. I got Dan, that's a great guy. He's got a great voice. He'd be good. So I think Dan and I are going to start our own morning radio show for Cumulus Radio called Brian and Dan in the Morning.
Well, cool. Good luck with that. Seeing how you're never awake in the morning.
That'd be a little side project. Well, maybe we'll do an evening show.
Okay. Whatever. Fuck you.
I think it'd be good. I've been thinking a lot about this.
I'll start my own called Craft Conversations.
Craft Conversations 2.
No, the same thing.
Just same?
Just replace Brian.
Yeah.
Can I be your co-host?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Where are you going with this?
Got to figure it out, Brian.
Because you started with Dan's wife, and then you went on a tangent about replacing me.
I don't know. I was just saying. I just thought about Dan.
I am Dan's wife. I'm known as that around town. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's cool though because he's a guy that you're proud to be his wife. I mean, you guys wouldn't know, but
does he ever get Jana's husband?
I don't think so. I think he's the more like locally known of the two, but I'm fine with it. But sometimes, I'm like, I have a name.
Have you ever written about him?
No, I feel like that would be a conflict of interest. Although I did put his Knightsville Porch Jam. I don't know if you guys have heard of that.
We're trying to go
May 13th.
And he still has not texted me back.
Who, Dan?
Yeah. A whole week and a half.
Oh, he's going to feel so bad when he hears that. I'll remind him tonight. He kind of had this idea to do this porch jam, bring musicians together. And most of these people are not people who tend to have gigs around town, and not for any other reason than they're just not that kind of musician, but they're these talented people. Some of them do play gigs, but a lot of them are just talented people who are caught up with life and they have all these responsibilities and stuff, and they have these talents within them that they never really get out. And so then they get on stage and they just kill it. I mean, they're so good. And so he's figured out this really cool model that's basically, and other people do it too, but it's basically an open mic, but you have to sign up for it, so he knows you're definitely going to come. And so he's got these big lists of people who come and play.
Oh, so you sign up ahead of time.
Yeah, and so people don't just come and play. But if he called it an open mic, I feel like he wouldn't have 16 musicians on the stage or whatever. Maybe he'd only have a couple.
Not many people showing up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Or maybe too many. So it works out. And anyway, all that to say, in the newest issue of Azalea, the one that's about to come out soon, I think June 1st. That one, I slid in kind of a mention about the Knightsville Porch Jam. And so, I haven't written about him, but there's a what to do in the summer kind of thing. And I was like, catch a live music show. And then, I put the big ones, and then I was like, or come out to Knightsville, just, represent and all that.
Right. So speaking of that, so you said you write like 5 articles for each one of those magazines, pretty much, right? Mm-hmm. What do you normally write about? I mean, do you have a thing that you write about all the time, or is it just random stuff?
Well, what it ends up usually being is, like I said before, it's someone who has devoted their life to something. It's people and their passions. And so I've written about a lot of artists, a lot of people who have started a lot of conservation kind of projects. And then there's the location based stuff. Like, I wrote about Caleb at Homegrown Brew House when he first opened, and that kind of thing where there's people doing something interesting in the community, here locally or beyond. And,
right. We talked about that magazine the other night, right? That was the one sitting on his, whatever.
Yeah, and it's like a bookshelf thing.
Yeah.
So it definitely varies, but I would say the overarching theme is just, hey, tell me about this really cool thing. You're a jewelry designer that just started making stuff in the back of your basement or something like that, and now they're selling, in Belk or something like that. Ooh. So yeah, Belk. Ooh. Do those still exist? I don't know.
I know. That's what I'm thinking too. They're probably on their way out.
They existed when my mom was shopping for clothes. I remember Belk Swell hanging out in the little, clothes racks and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can hide in the middle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And there were 4 of us, so we were always messing around. So my mom used to go to Hamrick's. Do you remember Hamrick's?
I do.
Because that was close to where you lived. It was the worst, the absolute worst.
Did not expect
for a
that.
child, I think. I don't know. It was like take all the worst elements of, I don't know, every thrift store, and it wasn't a thrift store, but like.
Wait, is that the one that was across from like Frankie's?
Yeah.
I do know
It
that.
was like a mix between TJ Maxx
right, like
and
Marshalls,
like
Marshalls.
Goodwill,
Yeah.
thrift
With like
store.
flickering fluorescent lighting and kids shoeless and crying all the time. I mean, that's what I remember. I don't know. I was also 7 at the time, but I just remember my mom wanted to spend just hours there, and it was miserable.
We said 4 of you, so
Yeah.
all girls?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're the...
I'm the third. So my parents had this great idea too to give us all JL names. And so my oldest sister is Jamie Lee, and my next one is Jennifer Lynn, and they both live in Nashville. And then there's Jana Riley, because it was again the 80s. And much like LaFonda, I guess. And then too close, right? And then Jessie Lane is my little sister. And so my little sister and I live here in Somerville, and the other 2 live in Nashville. Yeah, it's a name.
The only one that kind of rings to me is Jamie Lee. Is that after Jamie Lee Curtis?
No, but
Halloween?
I can assure you that you're not the first that's asked that.
Really?
I'm sure, yeah. Well, my parents say that it's not, but who knows? Maybe they regret it and they just say, no, of course not.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely in that time frame.
My sister's middle name is definitely the first name of my dad's longtime ex-girlfriend. So that's the one that gets more press in our family. Like, not Jamie Lee, we're kind of over that, but we're still kind of like, why did you name... He dated one girl seriously, whose name happened to be Lynn, and then they named my sister Jennifer Lynn. I don't know. And the world will never know.
All right.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad, poor guy, it was all girls, and then the first 2 grandchildren were both females.
Oh.
And so my sister had a son, and then I had a son, and he's just, he loves all of them, of course, but when my son asks to see the cars at my dad's shop, he gets so excited. He's like, yes, I will show you cars. Finally, I have somebody who cares about cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's awesome.
I was happy to finally give him one of those boy things.
Just went to the store and picked one up. Like, here you go, this is for you.
Basically.
Do you want more kombucha?
I'm good.
Okay.
I don't know how my body's going to react with all that vinegar. That's a lot of... it was...
That's not actually vinegar.
It's not.
Yeah, it's just tea.
It feels... it's different than anything I ever drink, so I kind of want to see how it, settles.
That's understandable. I'll give you that much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's doing stuff.
Interested to see how it settles, too.
I mean, it's doing something, because that's the whole point of kombucha.
Right.
Yeah.
Fucking working.
I'm all for healthy exercises, and that's what I'm doing right now. That you mentioned the juice cleanse or whatever.
Right.
In the literature about the juice, they call it a juice cleanse, but that just sounds like I'm on the toilet like all the time.
Right.
That's not what's happening. But it's really just I haven't eaten in 24 hours, and that it's more about I sometimes I just need to do something that I told myself mentally, like, oh, I could never do that. And so Dan will go days without eating, and I'm just like, oh, more power to you. I'm eating because I love to eat. But it's kind of cool to prove that your mind doesn't always know the best thing. And that's something that's taken me a long time to realize, that if I think it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And that's such a basic part of life, but your brain can really trick you a lot. And so it can be as simple as, I could never go a day without eating, and then just be like, haha, brain, you don't know what's going on. And so I feel pretty powerful right now.
Right on. That's a good job. How many hours so far?
What are we at? 24.
Nice. You made full 24.
Yeah. And
You feel good, right?
Yeah, I feel great. Been drinking these juices, and they're cold pressed from somebody here locally. And it's working out. Yeah. And I'm going to go another day.
I was about to ask how long you're going to push it.
Yeah. But but it helps reset too, I think. And that's why Dan does it sometimes, because you get in these habits of just kind of, my habit is I'll eat my kids like food when they're done with it.
Yeah.
Like
it just gives your body a break. I mean, it gives your digestive system a break to just kind of relax and do its thing, and all your bodily functions can kind of do other stuff and recycle some cells and things like that. But
yeah, what I was saying was, in the literature, there's a lot of notes about, it definitely flushes out the toxins and it gets the toxin, and there's a lot of pseudoscience-y kind of language in there, and so I'm not expecting to lose 10 pounds in 2 days, nothing. It's nothing like that. It's like what you said, just kind of resetting. So, hopefully I don't die. I don't think I will. No. I thought I might when I started, but we're good now.
No, I don't think so.
So, how long did it take to get, I guess there's obviously, you said you thought you were going to die at some point.
Yeah.
So it got really bad at one point. What was the roughest point? Was that lunchtime? Was that early afternoon?
Honestly, the roughest point was just, and this is such a cop-out answer, but just choosing to start. That's usually when I go to the gym, that's always the hardest part. It's just getting out that door, and then it's all just kind of, it's fine once you just decide that that's going to be the thing. But if I had thought about it, I wouldn't have chosen to start it on this day, because you guys had to go out of your way to get a juice-based or whatever.
No, we didn't go out of our way at all. No.
Yeah, he works there.
That's true. I don't feel bad anymore.
Just went over there and got it.
There was a moment today where I was so foggy.
For it, so you owe me $16.
Yeah, I was going to say, was it $16? Yeah. I didn't know that kombucha was, I guess it makes sense. It's handcrafted. No shade on Coastal.
We'll write it off. Screw it.
Right? Did you keep the receipt?
Do you take cards?
What's that?
Do you have like a square reader?
You're definitely not.
Yeah. I'd like to think this is worth $16 an hour or whatever it is.
I hope so.
I know. I feel like you get paid more than that.
I should be. You owe me some money.
That's right.
Oh, no.
We got a check for you.
We do?
No, we don't have a check at all. We have.
Hey, maybe some point we will. I don't know.
So, I mean, you're not going to write for these 3 magazines forever. I mean, what are your aspirations? What do you want to do from here? I mean, do you have goals as far as a writer, or you want to do something else?
Yeah, it's funny you should ask that, because in 2 weeks I am going to New York City to take part in the Association for Journalists and Authors and AS for Journalists and Authors. American Society of Journalists and Authors. There we go. I've only recently joined this group, as you can tell. But it's all about nonfiction writing, which is actually kind of a very specific. Anytime I've ever tried to get advice from writing groups and everything, it's so very different from fiction writing. Writing about other people and writing about true events that have happened. There's just a whole, it's a whole new world to deal with. Excuse me. So, yeah, going to the conference in 2 weeks, and I'm hoping that it will help me kind of understand how to freelance better, because I've written, I think the number is well over 200 articles, and they've all been published, and that's all well and good, but it's all in 3 magazines, so for validation as a writer, I think I need to be in Southwest Magazine, up in the air, something other than, and not to say that I'm not, grateful and happy where I'm at, but I also just kind of want that validation, and I also just want my words further than here. Also, don't judge me on my writing based on how I speak. I write 50% better than I speak at the very least. I go into interviews and I go, just don't worry about this. It'll come out better.
Right.
But yeah, so really ultimate goal. Dan and I have talked about this since we got married. It's really what we connected over, is, I don't know if he mentioned he has 2 kids that are 12 and 14 right now. And then we have our own 2 and 4-year-old. And so when the 2 kids who live nearby, the 2 older ones, turn 18, we will then, and they're moving and stuff, they have plans to, we will then take the RV that we will buy within the next year or so and travel around the country, road school our kids, and that's why I need to be able to freelance so I can pay for gas and such things. Right. So a lot of times when I mention that, people go, okay, great idea. Because it's kind of it's one of those things, of course, everybody wants to get in an RV and travel across the country. I mean, most people do, I would think. But because we set this kind of intention or goal 7 years ago, every major decision we make is kind of aimed at that goal.
That's awesome.
And so we've got, I think, 4.5 years. My younger son or my older stepson is 12. He'll be 13 this year. So like 5 years this year. So that'll be exciting. Then eventually we'll find a place that we want to live. But ultimate goal is to be able to give my husband a break and pay for things that need to be paid for while he can just freaking rest, because he's one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life, supporting 2 families and owning his own business and somehow getting time to play music like that. I don't know how it happens, but
right.
So yeah, but freelance is not really a lucrative business, so I need to get real good at it real fast.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I think you can
do
that.
It's very exciting.
Thanks. It's very exciting. We're getting what we really want to do is a pull behind travel trailer, because then you can kind of park it and then have your car to drive around. With an RV, if your engine breaks down, your house is broken down.
Good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of families doing it too. So all the resources for road schooling and stuff. I mean, I wouldn't be teaching, like I said, I suck at math. So we would work it out so that they would get, they'd be in a co-op online, or, there's just all these different resources that it doesn't have to be me pretending like I can teach children. And it doesn't have to be a really bad curriculum. Like, you can get a really good education. And our whole goal is making sure our kids are exposed to everything and people. And
I feel like that's a better system than like a public school. I mean, granted, you get a lot of different aspects of life in a public school, but I mean, if you're traveling around, that's totally different.
Yeah, that's
a lot of exposure.
You get involved in gangs when you're in public schools, is what I've heard.
That's a good point. That's solid. Yeah,
well, we've done something. We use Airbnb a lot, and we have so many Airbnb visits on my profile. I'm proud of every single one, because every single one was a choice not to stay in kind of a sterile hotel and instead kind of stay like a local. And so we used to actually host for Airbnb too when my daughter was young, and we had people from all over the world. It was kind of like reverse traveling, because they would come to us. So we'd have people from China who didn't speak a word of English staying in our house for a couple of days, or Germany. We had Afghanistan. We had, all different, Russia. There was a girl from Russia who had some really strange views on the world, and everybody we kind of sat down and talked with, and our kids, my stepkids were kind of older at the time, enough to be able to really absorb what, these different perspectives and stuff. And I just thought that was so cool. Like, we want to continue doing it. Our kids are kind of a handful right now, so it's a weird time to, sorry if my son's banging a pot at 3 a.m. He's not, but similar things have happened. So once things settle and they get a little older, we'll do it again, because I mean, it's only cool experiences from my perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that exposes them to a lot of stuff that most kids don't get exposed to.
And
like
me.
My sister-in-law, my younger brother's ex-wife, she's hosted 3 or 4 other people now from foreign exchange students that come to Pinewood school out there. So she's hosted somebody from China, 2 people from China, one from Spain, and I think one from France or Italy or something like that. And I mean, their daughter is getting all this exposure to foreign languages and different cultures and all this kind of stuff that most kids don't get exposed to. I mean, all they see is just the South right here.
Yeah. There's that quote from Mark Twain about, how travel definitely makes sure that you can't be ignorant or prejudiced or anything. The more you travel, the less prejudiced you can be. It's the best way to do that. Yeah, I remember a time when we had a girl from she was from Iraq. She was a girl from Iraq, and a girl from Central America, and a girl from Russia, and a boy from like Africa or something, all staying in our house at the same time. And I say girls and boys, they were like 18 or 19, and they were just kind of crossing paths with someone and really getting to know them right as they're like embarking on their life and stuff. It's kind of a cool experience. I think it's in a way a gift. And so it was really just, where else do you get the opportunity to just start I mean, we were talking about political issues and, you know, social issues, and everybody came at it from a completely different perspective, and it was really cool. It's definitely something I recommend. And we made money. We didn't make much money because it was like a house in Goose Creek, and it was the back bedroom. I mean, we charged like $50 a night, but I almost felt like we should have done it for free because
right. I thought about doing it here. If I had a bathroom up here in this above the garage area, I probably would have done it a long time ago. But there's just no facilities up here, so it's kind of weird. They'd have to go downstairs and share it. But
that looks like it could fit a porta potty. So
whoa,
yeah,
it's a very important.
I've heard that the carpet wall is.
But there is a little closet area up there that I want to convert into like at least a half bath, you know, with a toilet and a sink or something. But
I think that would be great.
One day, I don't know.
But I understand what you're talking about. Like, I think we both can relate to that doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, I was really shy growing up. I did not like talking to people, and I avoided talking to most people my entire life. I had a thing when I was little that I said, I do not like you. Do not look at me. I am not your friend.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that was me.
For like, how old were you when?
I was
That's what I said in the game.
Four.
Okay.
And I mean, I kind of just kept that mentality growing up my entire life. I was introduced as the kid that, this is Caleb, man, a few words, and I would not say hi to whoever I was being introduced, and I would just wave at them.
See, that's not your reputation now.
Well, not now.
So
no.
What happened?
Oh, man. What did happen? My older brother is very extroverted. Very extroverted.
Okay.
And I think through hanging out with him, because he kind of is so extroverted that he doesn't understand, well, he does now, but he didn't understand then that when he was acting a fool and just kind of throwing everyone else in the spotlight, that to him it was just nothing, but to us it was like, oh shit, what the fuck am I going to do now? And so I think he kind of broke me out of that shell a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, through other experiences of life and having to work my brain around looking at things differently, I realized that a lot of things that I was afraid of is the exact answer of how not to be afraid of it.
Okay.
So I eventually had to learn just to walk into the fire and realize I wasn't on fire in the first place.
Yeah, that's cool.
So now I'm just trying to do as many things as I possibly can because it makes me have less anxiety in the long run.
Yeah. Any way to cope, right?
Right, yeah. But I enjoy having conversations now. I think drinking with Brian, that sounds terrible. I think going out and having a good time with Brian, well, that sounds terrible too. There's no good way to phrase that.
We all know what you mean.
Right, yeah. Anyways, you just kind of fall into conversations. Mm-hmm. And being introverted most of my life, I feel like I'm in the middle now, but you have a lot of conversations in your head. And I still do to this day. Like 90% of the time, I'm talking to myself and just constantly going in like crazy directions, and I'll warp back around. And so you get a lot of deep thoughts, I think, when you're really turning an idea or a subject around in your brain for such a long time. And it was nice because he kind of thinks in kind of the same way, but he had different perspective than I did. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he was in a gang, so
yeah, he's coming from a completely different place.
So it was cool. Episode. Like when we would sit down and talk, the conversation would flow naturally. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It was easy to kind of like open up more to discussing other things with other people.
Yeah.
In the sense, like I said, you know, you stop being afraid of doing something, do it more often.
Yeah, I respect that a lot.
Yeah.
You sure this became all about you?
I'm sorry.
I think it's been a healthy mix of.
I think so too. It usually is, honestly.
I'm happy to not be on the spot. I'm fine with sharing this.
Are you?
Actually, I was wondering about that when we first started because she asked some great questions, and I was like, she fucking interviews people for half her job is interviewing people.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. So when you sit down with somebody for the magazine, I mean, what's your style? I mean, do you interview? Do you have questions written down? Do you have a voice recorder, a notebook, video camera? I mean, what's your style? How do you do it?
Did we talk about this the other day? A little bit?
We did a little bit.
Okay. I forget because I feel like I just
had this conversation. I think you brought it up, and I don't know if we discussed it per se, but
yeah. I do some research and kind of get some base questions for people that I'm really nervous will be very not official, but business-like and kind of straightforward with everything, and especially when it's something that has a lot of factual evidence or factual information that I need to make sure to get right. I'll have really specific questions written down, but otherwise I kind of just, if there's something that if I'm looking up all their stuff and I have a question that comes to my mind, that becomes the question, because I try to look at it from the reader's perspective. But for most people, I don't have, tell me where, give me X, Y, Z. It's not very, because I feel like that can be disingenuous to kind of look down at a piece of paper and just read out exactly what you're trying to say. And it can make people, my whole goal, and I feel like you guys can relate with this, 'cause it's kind of disarming people to get to where you can just have this kind of laid back conversation. And all too often I have people who are just so concerned about, well, don't put that in there. Don't put that in there. Oh, please, I didn't say that right. And I just always tell them, I'm here to make you look good. We're not, Azalea is not this publication that gives these like wild exposés on all the dirty things going on behind the scenes in Somerville. It's not that at all. If you've ever looked at it, it's very positive and uplifting and cheerful. And so, yeah, most of the time it varies. I have the voice recorder, I have my laptop, and I have a notepad. And I think I was telling you this the other day. I always choose one based on what I think, and sometimes two. And I feel like often I choose the wrong one, and I'll interview using a laptop, and the story's so engaging that I can't type fast enough, and I wish that I had recorded it, but my recorder's in the car, and so even after all this time, I'm still making mistakes. There's no one way that's perfect, because with a voice recorder, you have to go back and listen to the whole thing. And I want to make sure I got every word right. So what I do if I voice record is then listen to the recording and type every word that was said. And that's not efficient. And it's not ideal. And I don't think it's recommended by most writers, but it's important to me that every word is right. Even though I take liberties when quoting people sometimes, because I can know that what they were trying to say, and maybe they worded it a little bit weirdly, and so I clean it up for them. And but when I'm transcribing, it has to be right. And then the notepad is just, I can't read half.
What about like like that dictation software, like Dragon Speak and those type things?
I was thinking about that too.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, it would record and dictate at the same time. So you have an audio recording, but it would take that audio and dictate it into text.
That sounds really cool. Is that not... Because when I use voice to text on my phone, it's a nightmare. Mm-hmm. I mean,
No, I mean, this is used like in doctors' offices and things like that. They dictate their notes with their patients and stuff, and it goes right into the medical records. I mean, it's supposed to be better than Siri and all these other.
I mean, I would hope so.
But, yeah.
Because sometimes I'll say something and that it's not right.
We do it all
Siri's
the time.
Siri's the worst. Actually, my phone probably does. No, it didn't. It always does that.
If you say Siri out loud, that's creepy.
Oh, yeah. His phone cuts on all the time.
It's when I yell at Brian, I'm like, are you serious? Like, yes. I'm like,
yeah, there's something unnerving about that.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell I taped up my computer.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, and I guess it's not surprising to hear that this software exists. I've definitely had the thought, like, I know this exists. I haven't taken the time to really do the research to find that. But Dragon Speech...
Dragon Speak, I think, is what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I need to up my game because I just feel like an amateur sometimes, like scribbling or that would be the best way. The best way I've found so far is voice recording, having a notebook, writing down in shorthand, kind of
right.
the gist of what people are saying. And then when they say something really great, putting, they said something at 44 minutes star or whatever.
That would cut down on time.
That would. That I'm terrified that I missed that one little nugget of
I totally understand.
something. I definitely overthink it a little bit, but Dragon Speak.
Yep. Documentation productivity driven by voice allows you to work fast and smart.
Okay.
Fast and smart.
Yeah.
This message not brought to you by Dragon Speak.
Oh, no, it's brought to you by
it. Could be.
You should hit him up and tell him pay up.
We write down all these things every time. Just somebody's going to jump on board eventually and say, hey, advertise for us.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Dragon Speak is so great.
It really is. I mean, I did 21 plus years in the Air Force, and I worked in physical and occupational therapy in the hospital the whole time. So a lot of my therapists and doctors and everybody else within the hospital, that's what they used was Dragon Speak.
So it's had some time to get refined.
Writing stuff. Yeah. So it's been around for, I don't know how long, but.
Since your gang days.
I mean, the first time I remember hearing about it was probably 2005 or 6 or something. It's been around a while.
Okay.
So it's probably been perfected. And it's for Mac and PC. I see right here. So
it's got to be good because no one can even read a doctor's handwriting.
Yeah.
So the last thing you have is speech.
Yeah. Yeah, how does that even happen? It's like doctors as a whole don't have decent handwriting. I don't know.
Too fast to...
Yeah, probably fast.
Write slow?
Yeah, just scribbling.
I got 800 patients.
They're in a hurry. Yeah.
Have this medicine.
You have 5 minutes. Tell me what's wrong with you. I'm going to write it down.
Yeah.
Here's a pill.
I've seen these new doctors that meet you via Skype and stuff. Have you seen these?
No.
So somebody I know is on an insurance plan that includes X amount of visits with these people. And so it might be unlimited. I might be wrong. But yeah, for minor things, like I have this rash and it won't go away. What do I do? They can just look at it over Skype and then prescribe you something and call it in. And apparently it's legit. It sounds wonderful for those minor things that you just have to go in just to get the prescription for it or whatever, like antibiotics or something like that. You don't really want to be sick in a doctor's office waiting for 30 minutes or more.
Right? That's a
usually
fast
more.
Yeah. And there's been stuff like that, nurse advice lines or whatever. You call in and just talk to the nurse on the phone, but you're not Skyping and actually looking at an injury or a rash or something like that. But just as far as calling in, that's been around for a while.
I've never thought about that either.
The Skype thing, yeah.
As someone who does not have health insurance, I do not think about these things.
Yeah, the people that I know that have it, they don't have it through a job or anything. They didn't have health insurance, and this was an inexpensive option.
Oh snap! You don't need insurance to do this.
I think this was the insurance that they signed up for,
I see what you're saying.
And then it has that as a.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know how all that works.
I don't either.
I don't understand anything related to insurance and all that kind of stuff. They're always like, this is your copay, and I barely understand what that means. And I've gotten this far in life, and I just don't really care to go too deep in it anymore. And I know that's lame.
I was going to say that's the spirit.
I'm just like, just tell me what I need to do. And I don't know. There's only so much that I can really care about, and that's not one of those things.
Right.
It's way far down on the list.
I totally understand that.
I feel like most people are a little confused by insurance. Like,
100%.
Yeah.
Not a little.
Yeah, I mean, it's just bananas. The whole
Why
thing.
do you think I don't have it? Because I cannot figure out how to get it without lopping off half my body to pay for it.
Yeah, and then my husband owns his own business, and so there's a lot of trying to figure that out too, because we've got like kids over here and kids over there. It's just a whole thing. We got kids running all around Somerville. Lots of them. So anyway.
Lots of them.
So it would seem. Yeah. When I went to pick up my juices last night, the woman who met me in the Target parking lot, which sounds sketchy, it wasn't.
Yeah, so this is like a program, like a juice company?
Yeah, she and her husband make it, and they're the most beautiful people you've ever seen. Like, their skin is amazing, and their hair is amazing, and everything's amazing. He's like linebacker, tall, broad, and everything, and they eat almost all raw vegan food. So I'm like, I'll have what you're having, just like dump it in me. But yeah, so I think she makes it out of her home. And then I met them at the vegan festival last Saturday. And yeah, so she met up with me, but when I was waiting in the parking lot, she came up and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Have you been waiting long?" And I said, "I got to listen to my own music instead of Aladdin book on tape or CD, I guess, for the 10th time today. You know, you can be as late as you want because we have 100 kids, and it's nice to just get away for a couple minutes."
Yeah, I bet so.
Especially the own music thing. That's a bit like today I tried to get my son to listen to Logic, which is probably not a very great thing for a 2-year-old to listen to.
I disagree. That's awesome.
I mean, and he doesn't know the
Which
language. What?
Bobby Tarantino too?
Yes.
Yes. That all the time.
Yeah, I think Contra, is that on that? That's one of my favorites. I will not say the words here, but he's not listening. And so I tried to get him to listen to the beat of that song. And I was like, let mom listen to just one song, and then we'll listen to your songs. And he just kind of complained for long enough that I was like, okay, let's put it on. And so we went from amazing music to a song about going potty. And it was just like, like it was too perky and everything. And I just sat there defeated. So like somehow this 2-year-old, and he's just dancing in the backseat, just managed to make me not even be able to enjoy one song, but he's really cute. So
should get little earbuds, put it right in there, like, fine.
Yeah.
Play in one ear. I'm like, I don't want to listen to your music.
See,
anyway.
That might be the best idea ever. I always feel weird when I see people with earbuds in while they're driving, though. You know?
But you can't see your hair covers it up.
Yeah, you're right.
No one will even know.
You wouldn't even know, and I wouldn't even hear you if you're honking at me. That's fine.
I mean, I've got one, and people barely see it in my ear, and I don't have any hair to cover it up. But I mean, it's like this big. It just it's like a Secret Service earbud or something. I wear it at work all day.
Yeah, I rarely see it.
Yeah.
I'm like talking to him, and all of a sudden he just pokes his ear. Like, what?
Yeah, pause it. I push the button and pause my music.
Everybody
comes up and talks to me. Yeah, it's Bluetooth.
It's not like a Bluetooth like headset for a phone.
No, it's just literally like this big, and then it just sticks in your ear.
I'll get it during the break. We'll take a look at it.
Bluetooth phone headsets they upset me a little bit.
Really?
A little bit, yeah.
Like the whole
Yeah, like when somebody, it's kind of like, I don't have my phone here, but it's kind of like if you walked up to somebody, like when somebody's wearing one and you see them in public, it's like if they were holding their phone up to their head, it's disarming because you're like, are you on the phone? I feel like, and then there's those moments where you're walking down, somewhere and somebody just starts talking and you start answering them and then they look at you like you're the idiot and they're like, they've got this tiny little thing on their ear. I just don't like them. There's something about them that just like makes me feel like they're breaking some sort of social rules that I'm not okay with.
Oh, my favorite is when someone does that and tries to order like a coffee.
So that does happen because you see it in movies and TV shows and
all
stuff.
the time. They'll just be talking and not even looking at you, and then all of a sudden like, I want a frappuccino, and then they just look away and start talking again, and you're like, can I ask you a question? Or then they stop talking, like, are you listening to them talking? Can I talk to you now?
Yeah, okay. See?
Yeah. I mean, that's why we got that sign up at all the counters now, please no cell phones at the counter, whatever, no.
Oh, at Coastal?
Everywhere. I mean, you see it all the time now.
Do people say, I want, like, is that how a lot of people order? Or give me a, like that?
I get a lot of give me's.
Or do most people, in my head, most people say, like, may I please have it, or could I please get a polite thing. That's not the majority. I'm an idealist.
I don't think so.
Well, yes and no. It's about 50-50 in my opinion. I mean, I get a lot of really nice people that continue to have, like, a conversation the entire time and make their drink. And this is when I work in the coffee part. But then there's others, like I said, that won't even acknowledge you, don't even look at you when they order. You're like, all right, cool. You're a terrible person.
That makes me sad for that. Yeah, I was a server for a while, and back in the day at Perkins Restaurant on Trolley Road.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, throwing it way back. And also at Charleston Crab House, where Zaxby's, what's the Kickin' Chicken is now. That used to be a Charleston Crab House. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I gained so much weight that year because all the food was like behind the kitchen window, but right in the front, like where the salad bar was, I should say by the salad bar, there was the basket of hush puppies, and they would just knock them out like every couple minutes, and they were honey like something hush puppies. And so what every server would do we'd walk through the kitchen to go put it in order, and we'd pick up one up and like eat it, and then walk back through and like maybe pick another one up and eat it. And so the whole shift we were just eating hush puppies. Yeah. And then I got to the end of that job and I just kind of looked down and went, oh, there are consequences.
I found the hush puppies.
Yeah.
My brother worked at a Chili's and said he did the same thing with chicken tenders. They would just have like a bowl of chicken tenders, and the servers would walk by and is always eating one.
I forgot about the chicken tenders. That was the thing too.
He gained a lot of weight working there too.
Yeah, it takes a strong person, because there's so much food kicking around those restaurants just not being eaten, and you have to kind of say, no, I'm not going to eat that. But
yeah, I mean, I work in the kitchen at Coastal a lot, and all day long the chef is in there saying, hey, taste this soup, taste this hummus that I just made, or taste this and that. Yeah, I'm tasting everything all day long.
Just constantly eating.
And a lot of times I'm like, Joan or whoever it is, I'm fasting. I'm sorry, I'm not tasting any of your stuff. So a lot of times I'm fasting and I don't taste anything.
So you do fast too, but you just don't eat.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay.
Yeah. I intermittent fast pretty much every day for 16 to 18 hours.
Okay, yeah.
I eat maybe one meal a day, sometimes two.
Okay. I've heard intermittent fasting is the way to go.
It is. I mean, that's the way our ancestors kind of grew up. We feast and we fast. We feast and we fast. We feast and we fast.
I think I unintentionally do it because I'll eat, dinner, and then I just don't feel like eating until the next like midday, and I think that technically counts as a intermittent fast. I've never done it, looking at the time. I feel like if I looked at the time, it would make it difficult or something.
Right. I mean, most times if you just skip breakfast, you're going to be in that sweet spot of the 14 to 18 hour fasting window. If you stop eating at 6, 7 o'clock at night and you skip breakfast the next morning and you just go to lunch, then you've done intermittent fasting.
Yeah, it's really tragic that in this country, breakfast, I mean, it's not tragic, that's a big word for this, but it's a little confusing that in this country, breakfast is, it's got to be like pancakes with like multiple kinds of meat and just all this and lots of sugar and load up on the carbs and the sugar and the, the meat as well first thing in the morning. And a lot of people think that you kind of have to have that or you can't start your day.
Right. And I mean, literally the name is break fast. I mean, you're breaking your fast, breakfast.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what that means. So
I've gotten to the point where if I have a heavy meal in the morning, it's just, I'm upset, and I used to love it, but now the best thing I can have is like a smoothie or something. It feels
right.
Good
Well, all the cereal
day.
Companies and everybody else wants you to think that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. They want you to eat and buy their cereals and buy their muffins and buy their cream cheese and their
it's a conspiracy.
Eggs and orange juice and whatever. It is.
No, I agree. There's a lot of those in the food industry.
Companies benefit from you eating. They want you to eat constantly.
We could go on this all day because there are a lot of conspiracies in the food industry, and I've watched enough Netflix documentaries to know.
But you're vegan, right? Is vegan, vegetarian? I mean, I don't know what all the terms are, but what do you consider yourself?
Okay, I consider myself a vegan. A vegan person, I would say, and anytime you identify yourself, there's people who are like, that's not exactly what it is. But what I think most vegans would say is that we avoid animal products of any kind as much as possible. And so that vegan really comes down to a lifestyle. It's not wearing fur or leather, although these are leather boots and they're my favorite boots, and I bought them well before I was vegan, and I don't know what to do ethically, so I'm just going to keep wearing them until I figure it out.
I'll support that decision.
Because if I throw it away, then the cow died for no reason. Although a couple of years of really enjoying them, but
I mean, hopefully someone ate the meat and some of it got.
They didn't, but no. I mean, maybe they did, but there's so much waste in the agricultural industry. But I won't go too hard on that. But yeah, so it's vegan is just so you don't eat. It's really the most strict kind of vegetarian, and so then you have the plant-based eaters, and those people, it might not be the lifestyle, it might just be the food that they eat, and in terms of the environmental impact of animal agriculture and factory farming, it's pretty big. So anything that you can do to eat a little less meat, especially that factory farm meat, which is like 98% of meat, is awesome for that. And then, I believe it's better for my body. And then I really like animals. And that was the thing. My daughter, that's what started me, because we'd play with these like little cows and chicken and the toys. And then I'd say the cow goes moo and the chicken says, bok bok or whatever. And then I'd be like, eat this chicken. And it just felt, it felt a little weird. And that kind of led me down a path. And then I think one Netflix documentary turned me in. It really did, because the footage and everything, I was like, okay, never again. And prior to this, people have different expectations, or they think they know who I've always been. But prior to this, I loved steak. And I smell a steak and I'm like, man, that smells good. Like, it's not that you just all of a sudden want salad forever. I mean, it's not like that. But it's just, you weigh the reasons why you went down a certain path against making your taste buds feel good for.
Right. Contributing to something that you don't want to be a part of.
Yeah. And a lot of people have the perspective that vegans are judgy, and almost every vegan at this point was not a vegan before. And I think some forget that, but most are like, hey, whatever, everybody's choice. It's like religion, in my opinion. Not to say veganism is a religion, but your personal choices on how you take care of your body is just that. It's personal. So I don't judge people. It's, if somebody's eating like a rack of ribs wrapped in bacon with like, hamburger meat on top, that sounds horrible. Does it? It
sounds delicious.
Yeah.
With hamburger meat on top? It sounded good maybe until the hamburger meat, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know how that would, I'm not sure.
It would just be a pile of meat.
It would. It'd be hard to eat.
I would just kind of be like, man, do you need that heart disease and everything? But yeah, but I try not to be, to each his own and all that.
Did you hear about the Canadian guy at a restaurant called Antler? There's crazy, like, extremist vegans outside screaming murder. The dude, shoots his own deer. They're graze fed, and he cleans them. Everything is used.
See, that, I think that's, in a perfect world, if we ate animals, I think, raising them and slaughtering them and having your chickens and having them, and that's how it used to be. And we'd eat meat once a week, and that was meat was a special thing. But I think we've gotten to this point in society where a breakfast plate might have 3 different kinds of meat on it, and dairy and all this kind of stuff too. And then, every meal has one or more versions of meat. And I just think health-wise, it's not the best for our body. And then, all these other reasons. But what that guy is doing, that's the sustainable kind of agriculture.
It's the best case scenario.
Yeah. And, so I don't know.
I can't, I avoid the videos on Netflix because
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think I could watch. I don't think I get through an entire one.
Yeah,
that would destroy me.
They're upsetting.
I don't think it would prevent me from eating meat, but I would think about it and.
Yeah, they're upsetting. I mean, factory farming is a beast. It's not a good thing, but yeah, and those extremists, like you mentioned, there's so many of those on there's extremist conservatives and extremist liberals and extremist people fighting for, civil rights for people of color, and there's, extremist vegans, and there's so many extremist people out there, and it's so unfortunate how all of those groups get labeled by the people who are the loudest and the most obnoxious. So you see one person say something stupid on Twitter, and everybody's like, well, that's what a fill in the blank is like. And
right, yeah.
It's kind of the scourge of our society right now. I don't know how to fix it.
I don't know either.
I don't think anybody does.
I think everybody just being
7 billion people, like you said, screaming and having a voice that everybody else just gets kind of lost, right?
I think the best thing that we can do, and this is what you're doing as part of it, is just be open and genuine with each other, and just be honest about your opinions. And, not that your opinions completely matter all the time, but I think the more people are just genuine and open-hearted, that's the best that we can do. And that sounds very idealistic. I understand that. But the best we can do is just sit down and have conversations, because the more we sit behind our computer, we were talking about this the other day, and just type our stuff and get in our echo chambers and just feel like everybody agrees with me, that's where things get dangerous. So just talk to each other. It's as simple as that. It's not going to fix the world, that's for sure, but it could help.
But it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but over time, the pendulum swings. It's way over here, and then it's going to eventually come back, and it never really kind of sets in the middle. It's always one extreme or the other, but over time, it comes back.
We'll get like 3 good years. Everyone was really friendly for this time. And then we got some crazy people.
Yeah? So there's hope for the future. That's good.
I also like the idea of focusing more on yourself. Like you said before, like your goal or whatever is just to improve your own life and whatnot. I think the more people are trying to push their crazy ass views on everyone else, and that is an issue where if you just...
Everybody's worried about everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, you could still put, like this podcast, for instance, you can still put stuff out into the world and share your experiences and thoughts. But at the same time, like, you can also focus more on your own life and realize that other people's whatever most of the time does not directly affect you whatsoever.
Yeah. And as a mother, that's something I'm really trying to instill in my kids because they are the next generation. And my 4-year-old especially is extremely self-centered because that's what happens when you're 4. You think like the world revolves around you. And so there's a lot of lessons going on about, the world doesn't revolve around you. You are no more important than anybody else. You're not like, you're special to me, but you're not the most special person in a room full of people. Thanks. And I think those are things that, my generation, the generation that often gets called, special snowflakes. We think we're so special. I think that's an unexpected thing to do to our kids. Like, hey, by the way, you're just basic. To me, you're special. But, I think raising your kids thinking that they're just this unicorn can be dangerous.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, my kids are, to me, the cutest, freaking, most wonderful, but that's because there's some like evolutionary thing inside me that makes me do that. So I didn't like eat them.
That's crazy, but it's so true.
Yeah. So of course I think that, but yeah, anyway, I think that's another important thing to do is raise these next kids to not just expect everything to be handed to them and given to them because they're the most amazing, kid with the weird spelling names. And anyway, have
you heard of the book The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck? Mm-hmm. He mentions that in the book.
I've only read like 3 pages.
Oh, I've listened to the thing like 10 times.
That's what I need to do.
Book. Yeah, it's great.
I signed up for Audible. Best choice I've ever made. I love that because I can just buy books.
It's so much more convenient. I mean, I like reading. I mean, I still want to read because it's good for you. It's educational. It helps with a bunch of different things, but Audible is so great. What's that?
So well said.
Yeah, I know. I didn't say much at all right there, but
Audible's really great too.
Right?
I mean, it really is.
Write down Audible.
It's so very time efficient.
It is, yeah.
I actually have an Audible subscription as well.
Nice.
And I got stuff for myself. I got like these Frozen, the movie Frozen, like 100 stories from the movie Frozen. So when I'm just in the car and I just don't want to engage about, whatever, I sound like a terrible mother.
Characters,
they're like little stories.
Okay.
But they're just these little stories, and so I just put them on, and the kids can enjoy, that. So I didn't know that was an option on Audible. So if parents are listening, that's also a great thing because it is the adult stuff, but then there's also the little kid stuff, and that's helpful sometimes.
I think every parent listening is going to understand where you're coming from. It's just nonstop.
There's also a lot of podcasts that are great for kids. There's one called Circle Round, and I have no affiliation with this, but it's kind of cool because they take these folk tales from all over the world and then do this kind of like dramatic reading of them with I think that's the one where celebrities, like Tony Hale from Arrested Development, Buster from Arrested Development, Veep, he was on that too.
He's one of the funniest
people so funny.
I've ever heard.
Yeah. He read one the other day, and so it's kind of cool for parents because you recognize those, and then it's cool for everybody because you hear these folk tales that are traditional folk tales from around the world, but told,
Circle Round?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't know if that's like uncouth to plug a different podcast, but it gets people on the podcast platform.
One love,
Yeah, we talk about different podcasts all the time. I mean, podcasts, I think it's one of the greatest inventions of the past 10 years or so, really.
I agree.
They're very educational, and you can get any topic that you want. Whatever your interest is, there's something out there for you, sure.
It's really incredible. There's no excuse to be uneducated at this point, and education can come from anything. We were talking about YouTube the other day. I mean, there's all these, like I think Harvard, maybe Yale offers online courses for free, a certain amount of them. And there's so many free options out there to sit in your home and not learn if you've got the time. I mean, you can just, I just daydream about the kind of things I could learn I mean, we all do if we only had a little bit more time.
Unlimited time. Yeah. What do I want to learn today?
It's too much. I mean, I've got probably 15 podcasts on my phone, and I just can't listen to them all.
Yeah.
But they're all fantastic.
I was about to say, you sound so sad, but that's so exciting. So many options.
It is. But
yes,
again,
please.
Time is a constraint. I mean, you don't have the time to listen to everything. You try and get to it, and then you just fall behind.
That's the way of life, man. Everything's balanced. And at the same time, everything is no balance.
Oh, you preach to the choir.
No, I'm choir.
You are choir.
Do you use that often?
What?
That joke?
Nope.
That's a good one.
Well, usually I get to say preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Which works.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So this is the first time I ever got to reverse that, and it was nice.
Yeah. Well played. I like your cat shirt, by the way. That is a work of art.
Thank you.
You got like 2 or 3 cat shirts, I feel.
I wish I had 2 or 3 cat shirts.
Yeah. Actually, I think I had to get rid of some when I moved in. Just too much stuff.
So you went with the cat shirts to get rid of? That would have been the first one.
Well, they're like stained and dirty, maybe
yeah.
like super old. You know, they smell like you've been wearing them way too long. Yeah, like rolling around in a litter box. Anyways, but all the cat shirts I've ever got, I've never paid for. They've always been Christmas gifts.
Does a specific person give you cat shirts?
Mainly my Aunt Amy.
Oh, shout out
So
Aunt Amy.
They're really good cat shirts. And they're always like really creative. They're not just like,
she give it to everybody or just you?
Just me. I mean, I love cats. I will pick a cat over a dog any day of the week.
So much. I have a cat. His name is Tofu, which should not come as a surprise given our conversations. I didn't name him actually. I was looking for a name, and my brother-in-law was like, "Of course it has to be Tofu," and I just went, "Okay, well, there's no other options."
Could have been kale.
It could have been kale.
I'll just shove it.
That's all vegans eat. It's just kale.
It's only
we
kale.
Just shove it in. Dan is a kale fanatic. I could never eat kale the rest of my life and I'd be fine. But yeah, Tofu is the best cat in the entire world. I mean, I'm sure, other cats are cool. But Tofu, I got him a year ago, and I'm just madly in love with this cat. He's just the coolest freaking thing. When I sleep on my side, and he puts his body up against mine and like lays flat, like we spoon at night. He's just, and then sometimes Dan's behind me, so it's like 3 of us just cat spooning. What are you writing down?
We're picking this out.
Yeah, I want you to send me a picture of your cat. We'll throw it up in the video.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And normally I say I want to do that, and then like you do with your voice recorder, you just don't remember where exactly that is.
Every episode we say 15 different things that we're going to put in the show notes or post a picture or something. We never do that.
I have the perfect picture of me and Tofu snuggling too.
Perfect.
He's cool. Although he's been in this habit lately of in the middle of the night, he like tears into the room and like leaps onto the bed and lands on me, and I wake up with a start. Like, what? And then he's like purring and lays in it. I'm like, okay, you're fine. It's cool. Whitney is a big fan of Tofu. Whitney, your former roommate, right? Yeah. And my babysitter, she comes over and chills with Tofu all the time.
I want to get her on the podcast.
She needs it. That's what I said. I said, you need to get that. She's one of the coolest girls I know. I've known her since she was 10, I would say.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I saw all these like iterations of Whitney where she was like this like cheerleader. I told her this the other day. She was like a cheerleader, and then she was like really I don't know. Was she a cheerleader? I think she was.
Yeah.
She was a cheerleader type if she wasn't a cheerleader.
She was definitely a cheerleader.
Okay. And then she was like really fashionable, like hardcore fashion. I remember seeing her being like, whoa, okay, Whitney stepped up her fashion game. And then one day she just came back like the Whitney that she is now, where she's just so chill. Puts together these outfits that are just like, yeah, works. Okay.
Very
Has
Whitney,
like tattoos and just is like the coolest. I could not ask for a better babysitter for my kids. And she's just the chillest. She's just like, stay, go, however long you want. And everybody's like, so does Whitney have any free time? And all my other parent friends, I'm like, I don't know. Who's Whitney? I don't know. I'm not sharing her information.
She is very busy. I've been trying to meet up and hang out, and I
didn't know she
never get to see her.
She works, 3 jobs, right? She works at the Obstinate Daughter, and then the tattoo shop, Mystic Tiki, and then she's at our house 2 to 3 times a week.
And she runs a yoga blog,
and she's amazing at it.
Oh my gosh, the improvement is incredible.
I know. I always think if I had started when Whitney started, I wouldn't be where Whitney's at, but I would be so much better, because I remember when she started and she was, seeing her improvement, it really put into perspective how much I could have improved, even if I improved half of the amount that she has done. But it's been really cool to watch her journey from this is how much I can bend, and then all of a sudden she's like,
yeah, I can do
double that. Yeah, it's really cool.
I've been trying to get her to do a YouTube page for a solid month now, because I want to get into yoga just for the simple fact of stretching makes me feel better in the morning. But I have no idea what to do, and I hate just going through YouTube. I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know if that's going to be good enough. Yeah. I don't know about this. And then I'll go to Whitney's page, and everything's super fast.
Yeah, she does those speed up videos.
I'm like, I can't do this as long. How long should I hold it? I don't know these things. Yeah. And she's been thinking about it, so maybe you should just give her an extra little nudge.
Hey, Whitney, do a YouTube video. She's listening. She supports everything her friends and family do. She will be listening. It's not.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah,
because we're quasi live right now. But
quasi live.
Your episode's coming out on May 25th.
Okay.
Unless we do 2 a week. It's...
Yeah, I keep trying to accelerate it, but he doesn't want to.
It's like fake live, I guess.
We're live in the moment.
Yeah.
That's what we always talk about. Like right now, we're live. But for everybody else, we're quasi-live.
Well, yeah, we're super far out.
It's crazy that our future selves will be listening to this. Well, how are you doing, future self? I don't know. Right? I don't know what's up on May 25th.
I mean, the goal is...
Give yourself advice.
The goal is we'd like to be going live right now, right? I mean, super live. People be listening to it as we record. And you could listen to the recorded version as well, but I think the goal is to do it live.
Yeah.
Because the problem we have is we try and promote stuff. Like Dan has a show coming up in 2 weeks or whatever. Well, his show might not come out for 3 weeks because we're that far behind as far as releasing videos. Right. So he's promoting something that we're not even going to get around to promoting because the video is going to be released too far past that.
Yeah, that makes sense. We get into that with the magazine sometimes too, where people are like, hey, something's coming up in the next month or so, and it's so cool, but by publication time it does not matter. And it would be worthy of putting into the article, but they usually happen at weird times in between writing the article and the issue going to print.
Okay. So it's good to know that everybody else is having the same problem.
Yeah, you kidding me? This is not our only problem.
Yeah,
not only our problem.
Well, you guys are doing great from what I've heard.
Well, we get some more episodes in the bank, and we can.
We're trying to do some teaser type stuff. If somebody really has something they want to push out there, we try and make it happen somewhere or another. But
yeah,
I'll push out that I'll write for anybody for things. That's my pitch.
Yeah.
I'll write for anybody for things. How good of a writer is that?
That's good.
For
That's
things.
awesome.
Any things that you want me to write.
I'll lead writings? I got you.
No, I am doing a little freelance project. So that's been cool. I'm writing website copy for a nonprofit in Augusta and little things like that I do on the side. And that helps pay the bills. It helps pay for trips to New York City is what it really.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
All those things go right into the fun money. So that's always fun.
Now, have you always done, or you're always going to do just those short article type stuff for magazines, or do you have any aspirations to write a book or a novella or something bigger like that?
Yeah, I did write this essay called, and it was published. It was called It was published in Azalea or Palmetto, but it was Moonlight Memories: Taking One Last Road Trip with My Grandmother. And it was all about the fact that, and this is something, it was more like a memoir type piece. And I would like to write more personal things like that. But, people talk so much about themselves on social media and on their blogs and on everything.
Podcast.
There's just this idea of is it just going to be noise? And I think that's the thing you just have to get past and say, if it's noise, it's noise. You know, putting it out into the world isn't a bad thing. And that's why I admire you guys so much for doing this and just setting your minds to it and just going hard on it, like putting your whole selves into this podcast, because the fear of, you know, maybe nobody will listen to it, maybe nobody will read it, you know, is what has held me back and what has held a lot of talented people back. Yeah. So I would like to do more of that, because when I wrote about my grandmother, that was when I took a trip to take my grandmother's ashes to her 50th state, because she had hit 49 and then she died. Yeah, her whole life wanted to get to 50 states, and I had promised her that I would take her to her 50th state, which was North Dakota, and just as soon as she got well, and she didn't seem like she was dying. It was COPD, and she just had like a bad cough and stuff, but she ended up in the hospital and she died in her, I can't say how old she was. I want to say early 70s. It was younger than expected. Mm-hmm. So I took her ashes this was last September. I took her ashes to North Dakota, and it was a really moving experience. And if you don't mind me explaining why. When we were growing up, my grandmother, she had this thing where the full moon was her thing. You know, we would, and lots of grandmas have this, but she'd say, blow kisses to the moon, all blow kisses to the moon. We're looking at the same moon. Anytime there's a full moon, we're looking at the same moon. And all of her grandchildren and great grandchildren would do it, and it would be like, okay, this is a way we stay connected. So I get to North Dakota, and I decide on Theodore Roosevelt National Park up there, and man, I decide I'm going to take them at night, and I start driving this looped road, and I swear to you, like, I did not know it was going to be a full moon that night. Like, I had no idea. And I come around this bend, and the moon is like, I could touch it. It was right over the hill. It was the most enormous moon I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was just taking up half the sky, it looked like. It was crazy. And so driving through that park that night, the moon just kind of bobbed in and out of sight and kind of followed along, and I was able to kind of reflect on my memories with my grandma that I had. So getting a little emotional.
I was about to ask if it was going to make me cry. And
I know.
Yeah.
Like fighting.
I'm getting emotional too.
Fighting some tears back over here.
It was kind of amazing because, yeah, it was unexpected and it was beautiful. And so my editor gave me the opportunity to write about that. And then he used photos of her throughout her life in the spread, and it was really cool. I forget what issue that is. That
was in Azalea?
Yeah, it was in Azalea. If you type in like moonlit memories,
I wrote it down.
Taking one last journey with my grandmother. Yeah, it should come up. And you know, I look back at it and I see a lot of it was maybe it was 2 years ago, but I look back at it and I see all these. It was 2 years ago. I see all these things that I could have changed, you know, and it's not written perfectly in my mind. So I kind of want to rewrite it and publish it somewhere else or something, which I feel like my editors would be fine with. But sometimes you just have to kind of put it out there and just let it like walk away.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
So, but yeah, unfortunately that's the only like truly moving experience I've had. So maybe I'll wait for something else to happen to me and write about that. Nobody wants to read about the musings of a mother of 2, sometimes 4, you know.
Sure. I disagree.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of mothers that want to read about or listen to that.
Yeah, well, I have other things going on. It's not just the mom thing, but
how much of your day do you spend like writing? How often do you write, I guess?
So Whitney comes over 2 times a week. Gotcha. And those are the times I write or interview people. And then I also take evenings when my husband comes home and write like 2 evenings a week. So it's a really good setup because I get to hang out with my kids, and I also get to write, and I also get out of the house and meet cool people doing cool things. So it really couldn't be a better job. I feel like I've got a pretty sweet setup. Do
you write at home, or do you go like at night when Dan comes home? Do you just write at home still, or do you go to?
Do you have a certain spot you go to meet people, or do you go to various places?
I go various places to meet people. We like to go to wherever they do the thing that they do, so we can kind of get good photos and you know, all that.
Right, they're in their element, they're comfortable,
right.
Whatever.
Yeah, I try to write sometimes at home. but my kids think, for better or worse, they think that I'm the greatest thing that has ever walked the planet. I feel comfortable saying that because they are so confident in this. Poor Dan, because he's actually the greatest thing that's ever walked the planet, in my opinion. But they just they'll recognize it eventually. Right now, they think I'm the good one, but I'm like, he's so much nicer than I am. Like, he's such a better person, like human inside. But
he said that about you.
Well, okay. He's a better person. Like, I'm not just like being a wife. He just, the way he approaches people and situations, and like his positivity, I'm a little more cynical than he is. And, he's made me a much better person over the years, but, just by watching him. But anyway, I forget where I was going from.
You're writing.
Oh yeah. So when I write at home, they just want to come in and hang out with me the whole time. So most of the time I go to a coffee shop or something and then just put headphones on. Which is funny. The other day I was like, I'm not going to go to Starbucks because I know too many people there. I'm going to go to Big B where I know nobody and just get this writing done. And then Brian walks in behind me and I was like, all right, I'm not getting any writing done today, but we had a great conversation. And then I got everything I needed to get done. And so you were very respectful of like, the whole work element of things.
Oh, absolutely. Because that's where I go to do my work as well.
Yeah.
For the most part. But
yeah, it always sucks when you go to work and then you run into somebody and you want to talk to them. You're not trying to be a jerk, but you just have that thing that you need to get done. That's why you're there. Yeah. And so you have to kind of figure out the polite way to, I think I said, well, I'll let you get back to your thing and I'll get back to my thing. And it was a mutual understanding of that. So,
yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good seeing you. And it was kind of weird that,
because I've never
we've never seen each other ever, I don't think. And then we see each other Saturday night and then the very next day or whatever.
Yeah, well, we probably have seen each other. We just didn't know each other was each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Were you not at Blackwater the night that they came out?
No.
I wonder where you were.
I've only been out there twice.
I feel like our paths have always just boop.
Yeah, just barely missed
it. Or no, 3 times. I've been out there 3 times. Once with an old girlfriend. And
that's right.
You and Mary were out there at that point on the other side of the concrete, and then the last 2 times on the new side that you're on now. So
that's so important.
The side
where my tent is on an island.
Yeah, it's made all the difference.
It is an island, isn't it?
Yeah, technically.
That's cool.
Yeah,
it's a cool place. Yeah, that was our first time going out there. Yeah, it's a nice little location.
It's a fantastic spot. It just needs a little more.
Plays on the 12th?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, he was supposed to play
the Porch Jam was on the 13th, so the 11th would be a Friday, right?
Oh, yeah, so I'm not good with that. He was supposed to play on the 4th, but I think he got bumped to the 11th.
But none of it matters because this is May 25th.
That's true.
Right now,
That's
right?
But either way, I'm excited to see Dan on the day that no one else is going to remember.
Just
it's too late, guys.
Future people, go back in time.
I'm sure we'll advertise that regardless.
Oh yeah.
Of when this episode goes out. But
I'm setting up there, so you guys got to come see me anyway.
Yeah. The thing I wish Dan had mentioned in his podcast, I listened to it and I just kept waiting for him to say it. But like I said to you the other day, he was so humble the whole time. He's like, I'm just a dad who plays the guitar sometimes. But what has happened with Dan is that he stopped playing for years, and he's always played, but he stopped playing for years. And then just in the last couple of months, all of a sudden, he is practicing every night. He's playing gigs like multiple times a week, sometimes at least multiple times a month. He's going to open mic night, and he's written some of his best music he's ever written this year. He's an incredible songwriter. So in the podcast, it sounded like you even asked him, like, how often does he play gigs? And he said something like, oh, I don't really play that often. He just downplays himself so much. But if you get a chance to see Dan Riley live, I mean, it's a good show. And I think he has potential to be much greater, especially as a songwriter. It's kind of hard to get in the business as a singer and a guitarist and everything. And even he admits that that's not his strong suit. His strong suit is, although he's an incredible singer, but his strong suit is the lyrics. So if you get a chance to see him, listen to the words, and they're all just really intense.
Oh, and that's a unique thing too, because a lot of times your writers are just writers, and they're just behind the scenes. They're writing for other people. They're not performing. So it's very rare to see a singer or songwriter out there successful. I mean, I think usually it's one or the other, right? Either you're a singer or you're a songwriter.
Yeah, and I'm a really
for the most part.
I'm a really straight up person. Like I try really hard not to give compliments where, or criticisms where they're not needed or not completely valid. So then you know that I'm telling the truth all the time. And so with Dan, I've told him before. I truly believe that he has about 5 songs that I could see on the radio in a second. Now, some of his songs are not radio worthy. I'm not the wife who's like, every single one of your songs is great. Right. And I'll tell him that, like, that's a great song to just play for this reason, but it's not, that's not going to be radio worthy when he asks for feedback. But he's got a couple that just need to get in the right hands. And it's like, this is a song that I could see, that's on a top 40 chart or something. Yeah. So, we'll see. I say, take the time, go out, go do what you need to do. And he just feels such a strong responsibility to the family and the kids and everything. But he's starting to get out there. So
yeah, well, good.
I love his music.
I'm glad to see it. Yeah, I mean, the other night was the first time I've really seen him. I mean, of course, he played here for us, but I think that's the first time I've seen him actually out live.
And there were some issues that night, not with him, but with the set. So. It'll always be better than that. He had a tough night that night, so
yeah, I didn't see any problems, but I was kind of preoccupied with some other stuff too. But it sounded good to me.
Cool. I mean, we want to push Dan.
And he played my favorite song
at all times. Like, hands down, one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my entire
life. We're getting ready
life.
to start a radio show together.
Even though
Brian and Dan in the morning.
I think the first time I met Dan was when Rich and I had our business, and we went to go meet with him years ago.
He was stoked about that.
And
meeting.
we just sat in his office probably for an extra 2 hours, and we were just talking the entire time, and we're like, we have not talked about business yet.
Okay, he told you that on the podcast that's how so it's a good thing you didn't get married like 4 months later, because that's what happened to me.
But he was already married, so
yeah, I sat in his office is like the Twilight Zone of falling in love or something, or having good conversations at the very least. But yeah, that's what happened to us.
Oh my gosh, was it the same office?
No, he was down the road. But
okay, because it was tiny.
Yeah, well, this one was tiny too. But he tells the story as like he saw me and he couldn't speak and blah blah. And I just think it's because younger women in their 20s don't usually apply for like janitorial jobs, and that's the business that he runs. So he was just surprised. But I walked in and I was like, oh, dang. Okay, I'm in trouble. Like, this is just bad. Like, it's good, but it's bad. Like, I just knew that this man would not be my boss for longer than a minute. Like, there was just this chemistry. So, sounds like you and Rich picked up on that.
And there's my song. That's the song. We could, right? That's where that came from, right?
Oh, you want to hear about that song? So that's funny. Dan posted that on Facebook. Like, I don't know that he would love me telling this, but it's fine.
Well, that's why I heard it. I mean, that's why I requested it.
Yeah, but he posted that on Facebook, like, I want to say like 3 weeks after we met.
Ooh.
4 weeks after we met. It was really early, and he had not. There was all this tension and this chemistry between us, and I was working for him, but we weren't acknowledging what was going on, and then all of a sudden he posts this thing to Facebook that's clearly about a relationship that you want to have, but you're not going to have it because it's just not a great idea at the time. And
but you could.
And I remember getting on Facebook that night and going, "Oh God, like this maybe this guy is not." It was a little much. Like it kind of. And I messaged him like, "That's an interesting song there. When did you write it?" And he said, "Oh, I just wrote it this week." And I was like, "You definitely should have lied about that, dude, because I'm a little freaked out right now."
Oh, my goodness.
But the whole thing is we could, but we won't. And then once we started dating, and then eventually got married 5 seconds later. He changed the last line to, or the last, we will. Yeah. It's gonna be so good, and we could, or something like that. So. It had a happy ending, that's for sure, but it had a rough beginning, I would say.
I mean, that's a great song for
something,
for a movie. I mean,
to release that?
It was.
How did he feel putting that on Facebook?
It was ballsy. I mean,
sheesh.
It was very much. I mean, he had some moves there at the beginning that may or may not have been good ones, but it worked out.
Obviously, they worked.
It worked out. That one definitely like set him back a couple of paces because I was like, is this a guy?
So you got married 4 months instead of 3 months.
Yeah, right. Yeah. right. Yeah, we were all in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we're already at 2 hours.
Already?
We flew past the
Holy shit. We flew past the break, the beer, everything. We flew past everything.
Yeah. This is usually when we start wrapping it up.
Okay.
Do you want to ask your usual?
I don't know if I have.
Do you have any promotions that you want to promote?
No, I'm not going to ask that. Oh, I do have something.
I was trying to make fun of him.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you making fun of me. But by the way, I have a sty in my eye. Did I tell you that?
Yeah, you wanted to talk about it tonight. I was
going to talk about it. I think it's kind of going away now, but
it looks a little better.
It's been bugging me for like 2 or 3 weeks. It got real red and irritated, and then all of a sudden I've got like a bump underneath my eyelid.
I didn't notice it prior.
I'm glad.
No,
because I was hoping it didn't creep you out. But I sent a picture to him earlier today.
Because you were hoping to creep him out.
Like a close-up picture of my eye all wide open, saying, "Look, I got a sty now."
So my kids got those, and they turned into these like inflamed bumps that like stayed. Apparently that happens if you don't get enough omega-3s. Not all styes and whatever they had, but so we put omega-3s in their diet, which is something that's a little hard for toddler vegans to get.
Right.
But we put some vitamins in their diet, and they've never had one again.
Yeah.
So there's
I can't remember ever having one. I mean, I was telling him 2 years ago I had this thing it was the other eye that I guess it was the beginning of a sty or was a sty or was some kind of infection, but I mean, my eye was swollen shut. I wore an eye patch.
Oh my gosh!
Around town because it was so grotesque looking.
I'm sure you got a lot of comments.
I did.
That
it was very.
eye patch.
It was actually kind of cool, really, to be honest. But
well, now you know what it feels like to walk around town with an eye patch. I don't know how that feels.
I feel like a pirate.
I've done that before.
Just for fun.
Well, I found out that pirates did that so that when they go in dark places, they can just flip it up and their eyes are already dilated.
I heard something about that where if you want, and I haven't really figured it out. So if you want to be able to see in the dark, you cover one eye when you like wake up in the middle of the night. And you cover one eye and then do you cover up the other one and you're able to see, or how does that work? Right. It's a little tip I saw online somewhere where it's like cover one eye and then...
That's beyond my
Well, it sounds very similar to this eye patch
I don't know
thing.
why I was intrigued by the fact that I think I just like the idea that I could see in daylight and immediately I can see in nighttime. Like you could just walk into different rooms and just switch eyes.
It's like a superpower.
It works. The only issue is when you go into the dark room and go back out into the light, you don't have like a UV light on your eyeball.
Yeah.
Like the eye patch does not work both ways.
Yeah.
And it really throws my balance off and your sense of distance is totally skewed.
So that's probably why most people don't walk around wearing an eye patch.
Yeah,
for
and
light.
they're not really that comfortable. You'd have to spend a decent amount of money, I think, get custom fit, and pirate life is expensive.
No, this one I just went to the party. I went to the party store by Target and just got an eye patch from a costume or something.
I always wanted
it wasn't expensive at all.
A cool leather one. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what
I was going to be a luxurious pirate.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's expensive for you.
Right?
So I opened a beer. I don't know if we're going to do anything with it. We don't need to take pictures if you want to or whatever, but I figured why not? I've got a couple more questions.
Okay.
That I had written down that I did want to cover. I do take some notes and I kind of write down some stuff. But,
okay.
So 2 quick things. What did it have to be quick? I got all the time in the world. I got nothing to do.
I mean, we keep it relatively quick.
We definitely wanted to ask about the Creepy Kid Puppet Show.
Yeah, what was that?
What was the Creepy Kid Puppet Show this year?
Okay, so it's... That was said in confidence. No, I don't want to offend any Daniel Tiger fans out there. Okay, so Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood is the offshoot of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It's a television show for children aimed at kids like 2 to 6, probably. Maybe 3
so, I mean, like literally an offshoot, like it was spawned off of that show?
Yeah, so the characters in Daniel Tiger was a character in Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, or in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Okay,
he was like a little tiger puppet.
Right.
And so there's Henrietta the cat and Miss Elena and
the
trolley and the king and queen and like all the characters, but way less creepy than the Mr. Rogers puppet, because that area of Mr. Rogers was a little creepy. Brought down the show a little bit, but Mr. Rogers, by the way, shout out, like he was the greatest man of all time. I mean, just incredible the kindnesses that he showed people of all different. Like I heard a thing about how a little girl wrote in and said he always heard him talking to the fish, but she was blind, so she never saw him feeding the fish, and she was worried that the fish were hungry. She was little. And so from then on, as soon as he got that letter, Mr. Rogers in every episode after that always said, and now it's time to feed the fish, and like mentioned it. And he always made sure to bring an item in that he'd show when he sat down at the beginning of the show. And he made sure that some of it was like a toilet paper roll and some of it was like a baseball, so that it was things that kids of all different income levels may encounter. It could be like a rock that he found outside, or it could be something that you pay for.
Cool.
So anyway, I've always loved the whole franchise of Mr. Rogers, and they've done a really good job of doing this little kids show that Mr. Rogers Foundation actually does, and it's the best freaking show on TV. They teach all these little, for kids, I should specify, they teach all these little like social and emotional like development kind of things. So when I heard that they were coming to town as like a live show, I was very stoked to bring my 2-year-old, who is obsessed with the show. His name's Oscar, and he just loves this show, which I'm fine with because it teaches him all kinds of great things. And then we went, and it's not really puppets. It's like full body costumes. And so like, say it's your mom tiger is one of them, and her head is like, is what is this radius? Like 1.5 feet?
Oh, that's
like
at least 2.
Radius, 2 foot radius. And so it had the features of the mom character, but then it had a hole for the woman's face, and they had her face painted like a cat too.
I think I saw it on Instagram.
And so that's so upsetting because there's already features and then there's this woman's face poking out. And she's got all these features as well that have been painted on. And they're just these big, like, floppy heads. And so then they dance around the stage and they do. And I just kind of looked at my son like, is he into it? Like, this is terrifying. And he was not quite into it. He kept asking me if he could watch the Daniel Tiger show on my phone the whole time we were watching the $40 a ticket Daniel Tiger show on the stage. So that and then I snuck him into this like members only VIP meet and greet session, and it made it all worth it.
That's awesome.
We weren't supposed to be there, but nobody told us not to be.
Mom of the Year award.
Yeah, I mean, life of crime, starting young, it's fine.
He's going to be in a gang now.
You're way ahead of it.
Well, not if you travel across the...
I mean, we could be a roving gang. We could just form our own gang.
He'll be a breakdancer. One of the two.
Well, that's... Or two of the two. Isn't that what you...
Breakdancing.
Wait, were you a breakdancer?
Yes.
As well? Okay.
That's what I said.
Well, you gave a lot of information that I had to digest everything one by one.
Port City Breakers.
Can you still breakdance is my question.
I can do a few things.
Who knew?
Yeah. I won't do them now, though.
I mean, not now, but someday.
Yeah, we'll do it. What are you doing?
Well, I don't know if your iPhone is still recording, and GoPro just died.
Oh, the GoPro died? All right, well.
Did you not hear all of the leaking?
I heard stuff. I didn't know what was going on.
You guys are like an old married couple.
All right, so I got one more thing.
We are.
We'll go from this.
Even when we're off camera, the same thing.
One more question?
Sure, why not?
What about the Cotton Branch Farm Animal Sanctuary?
Oh.
Is that something?
Yeah, that's something. I did a piece on them. They're super cool. They're up in the upstate. They're like an hour outside of Columbia, so not even the upstate.
Yeah, I just saw something about it. I didn't know anything about it. I figured I wanted to know something about it.
Yeah. They take abused... I just wrote an article about them in the last issue of Palmetto Magazine, and they take abused and neglected animals and take them in and just give them this amazing home. And it's really cool. You can go up there and volunteer. You can go up there and just like meet 80 pigs and realize that pigs are really freaking cool. You can donate to them, and they also do all these like family fun day events where you can bring kids and stuff. But it's just run by these two guys, and they don't get paid. They just put every ounce of money and energy into giving a good life to animals that have had just like really bad lives. And so I don't know, I heard about them, and then I pitched it for Palmetto, and I got to write about it, and it was one of those pieces that I was proud to write because it was I feel that the more people who hear about it, the more money that can go into this organization. There's so many organizations that need money, but for animal lovers, that was a good one.
Yeah.
That's really neat. I like that.
Yeah, it's cool. I didn't realize that pigs have the mental intelligence of like a 3 to 5 year old, and they're way smarter than dogs. And so the stories that those guys can tell about the things that their pigs have done and they have everything from smaller pigs, although the micro pig and mini pig thing is a complete myth, and they'll tell you all about that. But
what do you mean a complete myth?
So that's something that was that breeders have told the public, and they'll say they'll give poor feeding advice so that the pigs stay like kind of small. But even I want to make sure I say this right, but at universities and stuff, they'll try to breed like a small miniature pig, and they can only get it down to 75 pounds full grown or something like that. Right. The idea of this like 10-pound pig that you can carry around anytime, like any of those celebrities that got famous for doing that, you look up where their pigs are now, and they're like 80, 90, 100 pounds or more at a sanctuary somewhere. And so it's kind of dangerous because these people, these sanctuaries are being overrun with pigs that people were told, oh yeah, they'll stay really small. And maybe they'll stay smallish if you feed them half of what they're supposed to be eating each day. But it's pretty cruel to do that. And then so people are getting these pigs for their like 3rd floor apartment that end up being 90 pounds. And that's what happens literally every time. And so that's why. And so they're completely overrun with those kind of pigs. But I forget what I was saying about that. But
they're smart.
Yeah, they're really smart. They have everything from those size pigs, like the ones that kind of get smallish, to they have these farm pigs, and I can't remember the size of this one, but it was
like a potbelly pig. Is that what they call it?
It was like twice the size of this table.
A pig?
Yeah, I'm not even kidding.
Holy cow. Holy pig.
I want to say 800 pounds, but holy pig. They do have a cow there. They have a cow that is its name is Freckles. And I want to say that was 1,400 pounds, but I'm really bad with numbers. I mean, this thing, they say people drive by and they just stop and take pictures because this is just the biggest cow you've ever seen. And they attribute it to the amount of growth hormones that are being put into animals. And the fact that most of the time you don't see a dairy cow or a cow that is a certain age. Like they slaughter them at a certain point more and more. And so but that doesn't explain why this cow is like a freaking giant. So that's holy cow. Yeah, Freckles is holy freaking cow. Yeah. And I also adopted a turkey there. Like you can adopt them. And I adopted it just because its name is.
You didn't take it home. You just put your name to it.
Yeah, okay. And then like give $15 a month. But I adopted it just because its name is Bob, and my dad's name is Bob. And I was so thrilled to see that Bob is super gay. Just because that makes for great jokes for my dad. Yeah, they were like, Bob only does his little like turkey mating dance for Bo, his little boy toy. So they've got a thing going on. So Bob was doing it. He was like, "Hey man, look at me." In the morning. Yeah, that's a good radio show. Yeah, they're into it. Yeah. So awesome. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's excellent. That's some good information. And that's where again? Where's that located? You said the upstate somewhere?
Yeah, Cotton Branch Farm Animal Sanctuary. I cannot remember the name of the city that it's in right now. Yeah.
Cool. I really like that.
It's a cool place.
Great concept.
Just if you're on your way to Columbia or something, I mean, just stopping in and kind of you don't even have to volunteer. They'll just walk you around and you can meet all the cute animals. I mean.
See, that's what I would want to do.
Yeah.
Just want to go play with animals.
I mean, and if you do that, throw them a couple bucks at the end for, taking the time. But
I'm going to go look. I'm going to have to support.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You go and you're like, I love all of you.
See you guys later.
And people do that. And I think Dan is going to set up a run to benefit them here in Somerville, probably in awesome. November. Yeah.
We'll push
like a physical run?
Yeah, like a physical run.
Leesville, South Carolina.
Leesville.
I'll tell people about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a runner. I'll do it, but I'm not happy about it.
Cool. Or you would do the run?
Yeah, I'll do that run. But like most runs,
So he's not setting up. It's just like a 5K or something. He's not doing a ultra marathon.
Yeah. The goal is to have as many people come as possible.
Right.
So
5Ks are popular, man.
you can skip and jump.
You know, I heard a joke from a comedian said, "I'll be glad when they cure cancer, so I don't have to do any more 5K runs or something like that." Is what some comedian said. But
that's good.
So on that note,
thank you for
what
coming.
Else? Is that it?
I think so.
All right.
I'm just terrified of the video right now. That's all.
No, this thing's still recording.
The last time it shut off when we said that.
Well, it was just a second ago, but
I know.
But I think that about ties everything up.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything.
It's a lot of conversation, a lot of topics.
I talk a lot, I guess.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, great. I mean, that is
makes our job easy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Jana, thank you for coming to the studio. And to everyone else, we'll talk to you soon.
Yep, we'll talk to you soon.